I don't know much, but I know I love you, and that may be all I need to know. Kevin and Sarah yapped on about what they did or didn't know, but I didn't have time for their nonsense. I had plans to make. Heading south was out too damn hot. Canada was a no-go. They'd be looking for me at the border. Sure, many folks have luck coming this way illegally, but I'd surely get caught going the other way. Talking to myself about escape plans, I guided my wife's BMW through the midday interstate traffic. I had her car because she'd taken my Jeep to park in the long-term lot for her flight to Atlanta. Staying in the country might be an option if I could clean out our bank fast enough and get some papers and plastic surgery before the authorities began looking for me, but with my pale complexion and blue eyes, becoming Carlos Hernandez was definitely out of the question. I only had a couple of hours to figure it all out before I went to pick my wife Emily up from the airport, drive her to some secluded spot, and confront the cheating 304. So why am I, Mike Anderson, a 36-year-old software engineer from Rivertown, USA, rushing toward the till death do us part? I'd like to say that this thought of confronting Emily in such a way is a new thought that just struck me in the heat of the moment, so that maybe you'll believe I'm just a bit off today. But that's not the case. No, I've been preparing for this moment for the last 2 years. Well, maybe not planning to confront her per se, but I have been keeping pretty good tabs on her. This is not a snap decision. It's taken 2 years of tapping her cell, watching her PC email and IMs, and finally meeting with a PI to arrive at condemning the woman I love. This is a second marriage for both of us. My first marriage was to my high school sweetheart, Jessica. We married right out of high school, and since we both got full-ride scholarships, paying for room and board was never an issue. We lived together even through our freshman year when most students were restricted to the dorms. After we graduated, we decided to rent a small apartment until we could buy a house outright. We figured that with tight belts and pay raises, we'd have our house in 5 years. It was the fairy tale marriage until the day I came home from work early and found her with our landlord, who was deep inside her. I recall the warrant song I saw read and remember debates, while stoned, of course, about whether or not a person can actually get mad enough to see red. I'm here to tell you that I did indeed see red. I stepped outside of myself for a moment or two as my body just did what my subconscious brain told it to do without rational thought input from me. Then I saw red on my knuckles as I beat our landlord senseless. I never laid a hand on Jessica, though. I got lucky and got a sympathetic cop who, instead of cuffing me and making me do a perp walk out of the apartment, let me ride in the front of the car like a ride-along. I was booked quietly into jail and awaited an appointment with a judge. The judge was sympathetic as well and sentenced me to 1 year on probation and anger management classes. Robert, our landlord, refused to press charges and opted to tell everyone that he had fallen down some stairs. Jessica never begged me to take her back. I often wondered why she wouldn't at least fight to save the marriage. Then she was diagnosed with nymphomania, and I understood. She knew I'd never be enough for her, and that I would never allow her to explore on the side. She ended up moving down into Robert's apartment. He didn't do anything other than collect rent and fix the occasional leak, so he had all the time in the world to keep Jessica satisfied. During the divorce, I talked to her twice, once to let her know who my attorney was, and the second time to tell her I fully expected every cent I contributed toward rent back. The divorce was easy since we owned no property, and we each had the vehicles we'd had since high school. I got all of my money back, and a rare and sympathetic judge ignored her cries for spousal support, telling her, "Young lady, it seems you do pretty well supporting yourself already." My exit was the next one off of the interstate, and I jockeyed the BMW into the exit lane. Jessica had been my reason for existing through high school. As I turned onto the main thoroughfare that would take me home, I reflected on my life just after the divorce. I saw Jessica a month or two ago in line at a movie theater with 3 kids in tow. They all looked like they had different fathers. I had seen her sometime after our split at a nightclub. She spent half of the night on the dance floor, and the other half divided between being under a table and making out in the parking lot. She never noticed me that night, but I had no doubt I had made the right choice in divorcing her. I felt stupid for months afterward, wondering why I never picked up on any signs of her infidelity. I've read hundreds of articles and stories about cheating. Each time one of them goes through the telltales of a cheating spouse, I can't recall ever seeing the behavior in Jessica. The thought that I had missed some critical clue bothered me deeply. I was a very detail-oriented person, and I had missed one and possibly several crucial details. This thought was one that made me start drinking. I spent 3 months getting hammered every night and then trying to function at work the next day. It all came to a head when my program manager called me into his office. My program manager had been a DI in the Marine Corps and at times ran our group as if we were a class of new recruits. "Mike, I called you in here today because I feel we need to have a frank discussion about your job performance, or lack thereof. Have you ever heard the term worthless as tits on a boar?" "No, James, I can't say I've ever heard that one." "Mike, can you think of anything more worthless than tits on a boar?" I shook my head. "Well, son, you are rapidly approaching that level. Look, I know the divorce was hard on you, but it is way past time to snap out of it and carry on with life. You have 2 weeks vacation in your bank. As of today, I am considering you on vacation. You will use the 2 weeks to either drink your liver to oblivion or screw your head back on straight." "That's okay, James. I'll be fine." "You will not be fine, numbnuts," he yelled. "I'm sure that 15 heads out in the office suddenly swiveled our way. You need to quit walking around here like a goddamn love-struck puppy and grow some balls. You will take your vacation. I've already gotten it approved through HR. Get the hell out of here and use the 2 weeks wisely." I was pissed off as I left the office that day. What did James know anyway? Okay, so I had screwed a couple of things up, so I was irritable. He'd be irritable too if he went through what I did. Part of me realized that James was right. I had to stop feeling sorry for myself and move along. But Jessica had been the love of my life since we were freshmen. I got in my car and headed straight for Mac's Tavern. It was in there that my life would take a turn for the better. I was tipping my 3rd beer since I had arrived at Mac's when 3 guys that had gone to my school came in and grabbed a booth near where I sat. They had been 2 years ahead of me and didn't know me. They were talking amongst themselves, and soon the topic of women came up. "Do you know who I heard is moving back to town?" said one of them. "No, who?" "Samantha Brooks." "Well, she's Samantha Mitchell now, but she stepped out on old Rick one too many times, I guess, and is headed back here." "That ain't surprising," said the third. "In school it never mattered who she was dating. She would still be with Matt Harris every chance she got." "I was with her once," said the fourth. All 3 laughed at him. "Sure you did, Eddie. Then you woke up and dried your jammies. Samantha Brooks was a senior when I was a freshman. She was the head cheerleader and prom queen. If her beauty wasn't enough to grab a teenage band geek's attention, the fact that she was known to be very friendly did. One rumor had her with 6 guys under the bleachers during halftime of the homecoming game. I never heard it from anyone who saw it firsthand or from anyone who was involved, but always someone who heard it from someone who knew someone who was there. Take Megan Fox without the tattoos and you have Samantha. If Jessica was my reason for getting up each morning, Samantha was the reason my mom hated washing my socks. I know most guys would think I was nuts for drooling over a serial cheater, but I look at it like a guy would look at his dream car. He'd take a model with some flaws just to own one and work on those flaws. So in my head, I saw myself making an honest woman out of Samantha. Later that week, I was at my mom's house for dinner. She is really good friends with Samantha's parents. They've all gone to the same church for the past 10 years. Any good Catholic is just fine in my book is an all-time favorite quip of hers. There used to be 3 Catholic churches in our area. Our Lady of Mercy served mostly Hispanic worshipers to the east of our neighborhood. St. Peter's served the Italians northwest of us. And St. Joseph's served the mainly Irish population in the south. When 2 new churches were commissioned, the attendance at all 3 churches dropped. So the Archdiocese closed Our Lady of Mercy and St. Peter's. Most of the Hispanics went north to St. Teresa's Church, while the Italians decided to come to St. Joseph's. That is how my mother became close friends with my dream girl's mother. Not that it had ever done me any good until now. Emma Brooks tells me that Samantha is back home. Mike, do you remember Samantha? I played dumb. I think I kind of remember her. Didn't she graduate several years ahead of me? Mom, however, has never been stupid. Don't play stupid, Mike. It's quite annoying. You know damn good and well who Samantha is. Lord only knows how many times I found your yearbook open to her cheerleader page and a sticky note or two nearby. I started to protest and then thought better of it. I saw Samantha and Rick at Father Nelson's 2 days ago. I told them about your divorce, and Rick and I agreed that Samantha and you should get together and help each other through your divorces. Dream girl or not, there is nothing that kills a hardened quicker than mom intervention. Sure, I had planned to have her intervene, but damn it, she didn't have to make it all her doing. I was about to protest when she thrust a sticky note into my hand. That's Samantha's phone number. She'll be expecting your call. I knew the subject was closed for debate, so I just pocketed the number and dug into my plate of roast beef and cabbage. My dad just sat stoically at the end of the table, pouring through the latest car magazine. 2 days and 3 phone calls later, I found myself sitting in the bar at La Bella, waiting for my dream girl to make her entrance. Since that dinner at my mom's, all kinds of questions had played through my head. Had Samantha put on 300 pounds? Was this a pity date for the love-struck geek that couldn't hold on to his woman? The thought had even occurred to me that she might meet a guy on her way here, and I'd either be stood up or become a third wheel. I didn't have to wait long. At precisely 5 minutes before our decided time, she walked into the bar. Every guy in the place watched her walk in. Half the guys in there were definitely not getting laid that night. One girl slapped her guy, and I saw 2 more mouthing hateful things at their guys. She was just as beautiful as I had remembered. She had put on about 10 pounds, but in all the right places. Her face was perfect. She wore a denim skirt that came down to about mid-thigh and a turquoise tank top. A mid-length denim jacket was tossed over her shoulder, and she had on 3-inch heeled sandals. I was hoping that I wasn't sitting there slack-jawed or drooling. Mike, oh my God, you look amazing. I remembered you as a gawky freshman. Wow, how you have grown up. I felt my face turning red. I hadn't imagined her throwing herself at me, screaming "do me" at the top of her lungs, but I didn't expect the long-time no-see like an aunt I hadn't seen in a decade either. I took a hefty pull on my whiskey and soda. She sat down and ordered sangria, and we chatted about mundane things until the maigre traitee informed us that our table was ready. As we waited for dinner, we talked about our failed marriages. Yeah, it's a no-no on date 1, but our moms had sent us here to talk about it, so we did. You don't cross Italian or Irish moms. I told her about catching Jessica and Robert together. Then she began telling me about life in Tennessee with Rick. For the first few years, Rick and I were great. But then I suppose every marriage is picture perfect for a while. Then when I started working, Rick seemed to change. He got jealous and paranoid. He would show up at my office unexpectedly during the day. Every time I'd go out to lunch, I'd see at least one of his creepy friends nearby, watching my every move. As the years went by, it got worse. New Year's Eve was the last straw. We always had a big New Year's Eve party. Everyone that Rick worked with came, as did all of our friends and neighbors. Nashville's best caterer was booked, and we'd hire a live 7-piece big band. People would show up around 7:00 in the evening. Men would go into the den to watch the college football games, and the women would sit around and gossip, mainly about the men, of course. By dinner time, everyone had a pretty good buzz going. We had roasted leg of lamb as the main entargc of our 7-course meal, as well as lots of drinks. By the time dinner was over, everyone was inebriated. About 11:00, the band started playing. There is nothing more entertaining than a bunch of drunks dancing to big band music. I chuckled, thinking of dozens of Colonel Sanders lookalikes dipping and dropping dozens of Southern belles on their chiffon-clad asses. It never took long for the dancing couples to start mixing. Many of the men sat down to drink while the women danced with those men who didn't. Rick was always a non-dancer, but he usually didn't mind if I danced, so I did. Charlie Carter was our closest neighbor, and we were close friends with him and his wife, Cindy. As most of the dancing crowd dwindled around 11:00, Charlie and I danced together more and more. At 10 minutes to midnight, I looked around for Rick but couldn't find him. As midnight got closer, Several people asked where Rick was, and nobody seemed to know. So I rang in the new year alone. An hour later, all of our guests had departed, and I went upstairs to go to bed. When I got to the top of the stairs, I saw a light coming out from under one of the guest room doors. I tried the door, and it was locked. "We'll talk in the morning, Samantha," said Rick from the other side of the door. I had no clue what he was throwing a fit over this time, but I was getting used to going to bed alone. When I went down for coffee New Year's morning, the cleaning crew was already busy removing all traces of the party. I walked into the kitchen to find Rick glowering at me over the morning paper. I cheerfully wished him a good morning and filled a mug with coffee. Since he never said a word to me, I took my coffee and a bagel out to the sunroom to enjoy a glare-free breakfast. I was halfway done when he made his appearance. So much for peace and tranquility. "So," he began, "how long has this been going on between you and Charlie?" I was shocked. "We danced last night." "Big deal. You never danced? And up till now you have never seemed to have a problem with it." Then he flew off the handle and accused me of cheating on him again. He demanded to know everyone I had been with behind his back. We ended up in a screaming match that ended with me throwing my coffee in his face and going to my room. He moved into the guest room, and I filed for divorce the following Monday. Within 6 months, we were in court. He fought every settlement offer, saying I was a cheating 304 and deserved nothing. We battled on and off for 4 months. In the end, we sold our house at a loss and split the profit $5,050. After all was said and done, we each walked away with a little over $20,000, and he got a drinking problem. We chatted about happier subjects as we ate. Pity date or not, I was enjoying myself. I hadn't even thought about this date going much beyond dinner. I thought maybe I'd ask her if she'd like to take a walk around a park, or if she'd like to go down and walk the riverfront. Things changed when I ordered another whiskey and soda. "You know, that is 4 of those you've had this evening," she said. "I haven't been counting, but I can afford them. I'm not worried about your wallet, Mike. I'm worried that you are going to suffer from whiskey dick and ruin this evening's more active phase. I have seen many spit takes on TV, but this is the first time I had ever done one. I sprayed my drink all over the place, luckily missing my shirt and her. The candle-bearing centerpiece didn't fare so well. While she laughed at me and I cleaned up, the waiter came by and asked if everything was all right. She looked at him with a smoldering look and said, 'Check, please.' As soon as I paid the check and left a hefty tip, she grabbed my hand and pulled me to the door. We left her car at the restaurant and drove to my apartment. She was staying with her parents, so it was the only option. Seconds after opening my door, I found myself pushed into my easy chair while Samantha straddled me. I had never been kissed with so much passion. I was afraid my fantasy come true was over when she pushed off of me and stood. She looked at me, and I felt my soul would melt away. She pulled off her jacket and tossed it aside, then crossed her arms in front of her. She gripped the bottom edge of her top and lifted it straight up, revealing the most luscious set of jugs I had ever laid my eyes on. She took a step towards me, and her skirt hit the floor. She wore a white lace thong that did nothing to disguise the fact that she kept herself shaved clean. I suddenly felt like the room was too hot and stuffy. My mouth went dry and my tongue swelled. Okay, those things didn't really happen, but I felt like I was close to hyperventilating. "Mike, you seem to be a tad overdressed now. Let me remedy that." She started unbuckling my belt and opening my pants. "Oh, Mike, I didn't know drummers were built like this." Actually, I was a trumpet player. Oh God, I didn't get to finish before she had started to give me an Aussie kiss. My mind went immediately to pondering the various compression ratios of the race engines my father had built over the years. It was a trick I'd used to sustain longer with Jessica. Over the years, I had made it no further than his third motor, a 350 Chevy. Samantha must have sensed it too and stopped. "Oh no, Mike, not yet. Ladies first. Mike, come on, stop teasing me." "Oh my God, I need you, Mike. Oh my God, you can't touch a girl like that and not finish the job." I never intended to abstain from finishing the job, so I don't know where she got that idea. It's crazy what crosses your mind at times. We both had wild and amazing sex. I remembered an incident from my early teen years, the butter incident. It was during my 12th summer that the butter incident occurred. I spent the summer running around with 3 guys from school: Jason, Chris, and Ray. We were inseparable that year. One night we were camped out in a tent in Chris' backyard. Jason had snuck a couple of his dad's magazines out, and we were looking at them with flashlights. "Hey, Jason," said Chris, "don't stick my dad's pages together." "Hell, get pissed." "How would we stick the pages together?" Ray asked. "Yeah," I said. "Kind of hard to see the pictures if the pages are stuck." Chris and Jason laughed like they knew some big universal secret. "He means don't be jacking off and screwing up his books," said Chris. I wasn't sure what jacking off was, and I'm not sure Ray did either. I wasn't about to ask and make myself the source of ridicule for the night. I'd ask my 15-year-old cousin Sherman when I saw him next about it. Soon the conversation turned to what chicks we'd all like to be with. Every supermodel had her name tossed into the hat, and several girls from school. After a bit, Jason said, "I bet you guys have never had any." We all claimed we had and accused him of never even seeing any. "Boys, I'll tell you what it feels like. Grab a stick of butter and use it. That's exactly what it feels like. Exactly what it feels like." That thought was in my brain for the next 3 weeks. I couldn't even go through the dairy aisle at the store without sporting wood. Sherman had explained to me the finer points of jacking off, so I was becoming a walking hormone. One day, while my mom was at my grandma's and my dad was at work, I finally decided to try it out. I walked into the kitchen and got Mom's brand new stick of butter. I never thought she'd notice I had done anything to it. So I unwrapped the stick and dropped my shorts. I remember the gooey feeling as I pressed myself into the butter. I was so busy concentrating that I didn't hear my mom come in until she hit the kitchen with Mrs. Beals from across the street. And 2 dozen cookies. "I have a dozen of—" "Mike Brian Anderson, what in God's name are you doing?" The hardest part of all of it was coming up with a viable excuse for my buddies as to why I was grounded for the week. To this day, my mom looks at me funny when she has a stick of butter out when I'm around. Samantha was about as passionate as anyone I'd ever been with, and she knew how to work it. She was moving up and down. This girl definitely knew what she was doing. After 20 minutes, I picked her up and laid her on the ottoman. Once on my knees in front of her, I entered her and began, "Wow, Mike, please tell me you don't have to be anywhere tomorrow." "No, I am off work for another week and don't do weekends anyway. Shall we see what fun we can have on a proper bed?" The next 48 hours were a blur. We had fun, we napped, we showered, and then had more fun. We went to sleep coupled and awoke in a frenzy. We did manage to eat a time or two. The kid who delivered our pizza on Saturday night was treated to Samantha answering the door in my bathrobe, fresh from our second shower that day. The poor kid who brought our Chinese food on Sunday evening was treated to me in boxers, fresh from our upteenth session that day. We actually slept most of Sunday night and showered together Monday morning. She had a job interview a little after noon, so I drove Samantha back to the restaurant to get her car. We sat in the empty lot for a few minutes before she got out. "What are you doing tomorrow?" she asked me. "Bettering myself or making life hard on someone else." "Why do you ask?" "Oh, I just wanted to see if you'd like to go hiking with me. We could have a picnic and enjoy the day." Enjoy the day we did. As a matter of fact, we have been enjoying days and nights almost non-stop ever since. "Dirty, rotten, filthy, guzzling scumbag 304, I yelled as I sat at a traffic light. I looked to my left to see a horrified soccer mom or housewife staring at me from her SUV. "Not you," I said to her. "Some other 304. I tried to laugh it off. She just continued to look at me like I had neon horns growing out of my skull. The light turned green, and soccer mama laid rubber trying to put distance between herself and the Tourette's BMW driver. I couldn't believe that she was really cheating on me. Our relationship started out hot and heavy and had not slowed down for 5 years. Maybe we had only mellowed out recently, but only slightly. We were still known to spend an entire weekend together. We even took a week off work a few years ago and never got dressed. I needed to go back to work to recover. We got married 7 months after that first weekend. The wedding was a spectacle. Italian Catholics and Irish Catholics in the same venue meant it was more of a bash than a wedding. Samantha's mom and dad, as tradition requires, paid for the whole wedding. I offered to help with the booze at the reception, only to be handed a wad of cash to help pay for my bachelor party. Not to be outdone, my parents paid for our honeymoon. Of course, all of the aunts and uncles who felt they needed to contribute gave us spending money for our trip. Mom had planned on sending us to Europe to see Ireland and Italy, but a passport mix-up that was going to take 3 months to straighten out left us on the North American continent. 2 weeks touring Canada starting in Vancouver. 3 days in and we never saw the mountains. On one of my nightly calls to Mom, she suggested we find other things to do on our honeymoon, like see some sights. She made the same comment when I called her from Victoria, Calgary, and Toronto. We did see some of these places. We just spent the majority of our time in our room. We saw more of Calgary since we often spent time on the balcony outside of our room. When we got to Montreal, we actually did tour the old port. We saw all the tourist sites had to offer there. When I told my mom this, she said, "Oh, so I take it your room wasn't ready when you got to town." I had to admit she was right, but we did enjoy the beaches at Vancouver and Victoria. Some were nude beaches that offered private areas, and on some, we just relaxed in the sun. On our return flight to Denver, Samantha and I joined the Mile High Club. Our early years together were pure bliss. There weren't many nights that we went without some form of intimacy. Even during her monthly visit from Aunt Flo, she would offer me a treat. Samantha also started what would become my biggest hobby. In her job as an insurance adjuster, she comes across many different kinds of people. Once, she was going through a client's car that was to be scrapped, and she came across a box of auto parts. She went to throw the box in the trash when the client called for her to stop. "I thought I'd lost those," he told her. "They look like junk parts," she said. "What do you want them for?" "These aren't just junk parts. These are collectibles," he explained. Samantha scoffed and went back to her task. "No, really," he said, holding up a part. Samantha didn't know a carburetor from a key ring. "This is from Dale Earnhardt's Daytona-winning car. It's worth $5,000. This is from Richard Petty's last race. It's worth $10,000. Later, she did some online research into motorsports memorabilia. She found a lot of things that were worth a lot of money to the right person. She had little interest in racing, but knew I followed drag racing religiously. I wondered why she suddenly started questioning me about different drag racers and asking to look through my stores of old magazines. She was religious about it for a few weeks. Then I didn't hear much more about it, though she lost interest. Our moms threw us an anniversary party that year. There was a lot of drinking and a lot of eating and a lot of drunk Irish and Italians before all was said and done. After dinner, our mom suggested we exchange our gifts. I had saved for 3 months and used all of my bonuses to buy Samantha a diamond necklace with matching earrings, bracelet, and anklet. She teared up and hugged me fiercely after she opened it. "Oh, Mike, it's so beautiful." Then she handed me my box. I opened it to find 2 spark plugs wrapped in tissue paper. I saw that the plugs would fit nothing I own and was wondering why she would give me spark plugs to begin with. Then I saw the certificate in the box, certifying that these plugs had been in the number 4 cylinder of Kenny Bernstein's Bud King when he became the first driver to go faster than 300 miles per hour in 1992. That was how my collecting began. Along with King Kenny's spark plugs, I also have the valves from the number 3 cylinder of Joe Amado's first 280 miles per hour run, the blower belt from Chuck Etchell's first 4-second funny car run, as well as the number 2 piston from Jim Epler's first 300 miles per hour funny car pass. I also have several other items that either Samantha or I have found and bought over the years, but my most prized and coveted mementos come from the same car. In 1988, Eddie Hill did something no one else had ever done. He became the first driver to go quicker than 5 seconds in a quarter mile. In 1987, Gene Snow drove a quarter mile in 5 seconds flat at Indianapolis. I have 3 of his spark plug wires from that run. The following year in Dallas at an IHRA event, Eddie Hill ran the first ever 4.99 pass in history. Later, at an NHRA event in Houston, He ran 4.93 to become the first in both sanctioning bodies to do this. Eddie's crew chief, Fuzzy Carter, took the pistons from both historic runs and turned them into clocks. Of the 16 clocks, I own one. It is the number 2 piston from the Dallas run. Samantha and I have searched high and low and have found only 4 of the clocks from the Houston run. 2 owners won't sell, but 2 others might. One guy was from Des Moines, Iowa, the other from Abilene, Texas. Samantha was always an outdoor type. She always had us out skiing or swimming on the weekends. Not that I objected, but it made it hard for me to reciprocate the fabulous collectibles she got me. After a few years, I was on a first-name basis with every outfitter and raft guide in the state, and a few out of state. We also had success at our jobs. Samantha beat me home one evening, and when I walked into the house and found a bottle of champagne chilling and a roast duck being prepared for dinner, I knew something was up. "Hey, babe, what's the occasion?" I was a tad bit worried that I had forgotten some anniversary. I knew she wasn't pregnant. We had discovered 2 years before that she was barren. Her uterus had never formed, so she was incapable of bearing a child. We had considered adopting and then just decided we'd be dinks dual income, no kids. I got promoted. Rex called me to his main office this afternoon and told me I was being made the manager of our whole office. No more watching people pick through wreckage and crying about it when I get home. I will send others to do that part. Needless to say, I had to call off work the next 2 days as we celebrated. James was quite used to me having sudden illnesses since I had hooked up with Samantha. He always told me that I was more productive than before, so he was inclined to look the other way. 2 months later, Alan Bradley called me into his office. Alan was the head of our company, and I was sure I was going to be fired for excessive absences. James may have looked the other way, but Linda McButtface McCarthy, the HR manager, had likely caught us in the act. "Mike, have you ever thought about the job of the project managers? In what terms? How bad they suck, how hard it must be taking credit for 15 other people's work, taking your sack to the chin," I thought, but did not say. I was wondering if he was trying a guilt trip on me and was going to fire James. "No, sir, I just do what James asks of me. I don't truly give much thought to his tasks." "Well, Mike, you might want to. As of Monday next, you are one." My mind dropped out for a moment, leaving me with an obviously stupid expression on my face. "If you don't want the job, I'm sure I can find someone who does," he said. "No, I'll gladly take the job, Mr. Bradley. But what about James?" "James will still do his job. Mike, you will be getting your own group. It's secret stuff, so we'll have to pick your group wisely, but you'll have a ton of say in who gets on board." I spent the next 2 hours poring through personnel files and resumes with Alan, and finally, we had 6 solid people to put on my team. I also had to sign a non-disclosure statement. It turned out that NSA and a few other shady organizations were paying for the software my team would develop. Officially, my team and I were changing divisions in the company. Only the team would know I was the manager, and the other managers would only know that the folks on my team reported to an outside manager. Alan gave me the rest of the week off and a prepared script for sharing the news with Samantha. I made reservations at one of the ritziest restaurants in Denver and got us a hotel room for a night. Let's just say that Samantha took the rest of the week off as well, and we both needed to go to work Monday to recover. Up until 3 months after our promotions, we had the perfect marriage. It's funny how a few hours can change the outlook for someone. A few exchanged words with another person can make you look at the world and your significant other quite differently. "Hey, yeah, you don't know what it's like, baby. You don't know what it's like to love somebody the way I love you," Barry and Morris sing. I sure do know what it's like. You don't know what it's like when that screwing somebody can't keep their mother-effing legs closed. I probably looked stupid chastising the brothers Gibb on the radio, but I didn't care. I was only 1 left turn and 5 blocks from home and still didn't fully know my exact plan of action. I wanted to confront her with the truth, but I didn't want to spend the rest of my life dealing with the aftermath. The green arrow lit up, and I made my turn. I realized I was quite possibly making this turn for the last time. Maybe I was stupid for ever thinking a guy like me could hold on to a girl like Samantha. I remember exactly when the first seeds of doubt were planted about the faithfulness of my wife. Traditionally, during homecoming weekends, some classes held impromptu class reunions. My class was no different, but I never liked many of the alumni who would likely show up, nor did I care which chick got fat, which jock lost his hair, or who had so many brats that their uterus collapsed. Samantha, however, lived for homecoming weekend. We attended the game, even though this year looked to be a waste of time. Our team was one loss from being eliminated from playoff contention, and we were playing our biggest rival. They were undefeated and led the state in every category. There were at least a dozen tailgate parties by Samantha's class alone. She and I traditionally went to a local Italian place and then went to the stadium. We went a little earlier and had a few beers with her old cheerleader squad. I had to admit most of them were still hot. I say most because the three witches that Samantha always had problems with all gained at least 100 pounds and looked like trailer trash. The other team jumped out to a 14-point lead early, and our crowd became subdued. Samantha had even hinted about maybe leaving around halftime to beat the traffic. Then, with 5 minutes left to go in the first quarter, we intercepted a pass and scored. And the first quarter ended at 14-7. We never looked back. At the end of the game, our team walked off more like danced off the field, 45-14 victors. The alumni went nuts, and there was no way I was even going to attempt that hack. I had back doors into several NSA programs, but there was no way to task the satellites without them knowing. There was also a zero chance that Samantha would be IMing or texting her every conversation during her time in Cleveland. The only option I then had was to hire a PI and have them tailor during her trip. Since I had her itinerary, it wasn't hard at all for them to plan their surveillance. I had quite a bit of money in my savings account that I used to buy Samantha gifts and such. So secretly being able to afford to pay the PI team was not hard, but I was glad Samantha didn't travel often. Samantha was gone for 3 days. I was on pins and needles for the entire time. I called my attorney, Jay Whitfield, and asked him to draw up divorce papers. He told me I was being paranoid. When I told him it was just in case, he said he'd charge me double if I changed my mind after he drew them up, so I told him to hold off. He said that I would thank him later. As Samantha's flight was leaving Cleveland for Denver, I was in the office of Jerry Conant, the PI I had hired. My employers and I used Jerry often in our research and background checks for sensitive work groups. He and his guys always did a thorough job. Jerry had sent 3 of his guys to cover Samantha in Cleveland. 2 of them flew in the day before and staked out her hotel. They had managed, and by managed I mean bribed the clerk to get the room next to hers. They punched a couple of small holes in the wall between the rooms in case she took a guy in and they could get photographic evidence. The 3rd guy tailed Samantha to and from the airport and boarded the same plane. When they got to Cleveland, there was never a moment, except for when she was alone in her room or in meetings, that one of the 3 wasn't watching her. As the plane carrying her and one of the PIs was leaving Cleveland, the other 2 were sending the report to Jerry. I sat in his office as he printed out the report. He scanned it quickly and then went back to his computer and printed a few more things. "Mike, your girl didn't do a damn thing while she was in Cleveland." He put a paper in front of me that detailed her comings and goings, including her meals and showers. The only thing here that is even slightly hinky is this. He pushed a stack of pictures in front of me. The pictures showed Samantha hugging some guy twice. I couldn't see his face in the first few shots. "The guy arrived in Cleveland as your wife was leaving. According to my guys, he was heading for a connecting flight to Indianapolis when they met. No clue as to what flight he got off of. The last photo I saw showed his face clearly. It was Matt Harris, Samantha's best-known cheating partner. I knew that nothing had happened on this trip, but the appearance of Matt Harris meant I couldn't let my guard down. When Samantha got home, I asked her about her trip. She told me that it had been pretty mundane and boring, listening to 17 keynote speakers ramble on about insurance. It's better than anesthesia. Even the gung-ho types were yawning to beat hell. I had been to programming seminars that would kill if not for massive amounts of caffeine, especially that one in Indianapolis 2 years ago. She chuckled and then informed me she needed a shower. I was a bit miffed over her lack of disclosure about running into an old friend, but I didn't dare tip my hand and let her know she was under surveillance. When she'd been in the shower for a minute or two, I heard her call to me. I figured she had forgotten to grab a towel or shampoo. As soon as I walked into the bathroom, she was on me in no time. I was stripped and pulled into the shower. 4 hours later, the kid delivering the Mexican food was subjected to the sight of me in my hastily donned boxers. For several months, nothing came up to arouse my suspicions. Then one day, out of the blue, she opened a Facebook account. I was leery because 3 guys I worked with had their wives leave them for guys they found on Facebook. So needless to say, I kept a real close eye on her Facebook activity. She gained about 70 friends during the first week. Mainly they were people she went to school with or worked with. There were a few guys whom I was sure hit her up because of her profile photo. She must have felt the same way because she rejected those without a second look. I was a bit alarmed when I discovered that the chat feature on the site was missed by my software, but I wrote an update that fixed that right away. 2 months ago, she got the friend request I had been dreading. I read the words and felt my anger rise. Matt Harris has sent you a friend request. Do you know Matt? Instead of yelling or cursing, I just deleted the request. Maybe good old Matt would just take a hike. I wasn't that lucky. I was working in my den that evening when I got a chat alert for Samantha's Facebook account. I almost ignored it, thinking that it was her friend from work, Rachel, witching about Carl the mail guy or something. Then that gut feeling kicked in, and I opened the window. Matt Harris. Hey, sweetie, why didn't you answer my friend request? Samantha Mitchell. What request? I didn't get any today. Matt Harris, I sent you one. Too bad you didn't get any. I do you if hubby wants. Samantha Mitchell Pig. That's probably why I turned you down. Matt Harris. Thought you said you got none today. Samantha Mitchell, send another. Ill accept. I know I didn't get one today. I knew there was no stopping it without her knowing something was awry, so I just sat back and prepared to monitor her a lot more. For the most part, they talked about people from high school and their lives. Matt was an auto finance specialist, and he lived in South Bend, Indiana. For the next few weeks, they chatted idly. He tried to take the conversation sexual, but to her credit, Samantha always put an abrupt stop to it. There were a few times as well that I considered sending him a nice virus. For the most part, they kept their chats tame. 3 weeks ago, Samantha's boss sent her an itinerary for the annual meetings. This year, they were being held in Dallas, Texas. Once again, I had all of the information that I needed to feed my PI. I never saw Samantha mention the Dallas trip to Harris in their chats, but a week before she was scheduled to leave, he started asking her about it. Matt Harris. So when you gone to TX? Samantha Mitchell. How'd you find out about that? Matt Harris. Trolled your page. Saw a post from your friend Anna. Samantha Mitchell. So then you probably know when I'm going. Matt Harris. I have to get a ticket to TX, I guess. Samantha Mitchell. You'll never do it. Matt Harris. I accept that challenge. I hoped he was bluffing. I looked for a way to block him from getting airfare, but once again, with perpetrating a risky hack into sensitive NSA computers not being an option, there was nothing I could really do. I wished I had gotten more pertinent information on the guy so I could make his attempt at my wife impossible, but all I could do was watch and prepare for the worst. I wasn't prepared for the worst, though, and I caused it. 3 days before Samantha was set to leave for Dallas, I watched a chat session between her and Matt. Matt Harris. Hey, babe. Samantha Mitchell can't. You greet someone like a normal human, Matt Harris? Who wants normal? Oops, damn caps lock. Matt Harris. I got exciting news, babe. I didn't know much about Matt Harris, but I quickly deduced that tact and spelling were not his strong suits. This idiot needed to buy Hooked on Phonics. I had to stifle a laugh or 3 as I read his crap. Matt Harris. I got my tickets to Dallas. Matt Harris. No rooms at the Marriott, though. Matt Harris. But Best Western is just up the road. Samantha Mitchell. I shouldn't have told you where my meeting was, Matt Harris, that I have a surprise for you too, Samantha Mitchell. Oh really, what surprise? Your tool? Samantha Mitchell. Seen it, not impressed, Matt Harris. You never complained before. Samantha Mitchell. So what's your big surprise, Matt Harris? I tracked down Gary and Arnie, Gary Darling and Arnold Phillips. Those two and Matt were three of the supposed participants in the infamous homecoming gangbang. A chill ran up my spine when I realized what Harris was aiming for. I just hoped that Samantha wasn't game. For some reason, I had never asked her about the gangbang. I'm not sure how you ask your wife to tell you about the time she was with 6 guys under a sea of football-watching asses. Back when I was a hormone-driven kid, I wanted the rumor to be true. Now I hoped it had never happened. I had a sick feeling in the pit of my stomach. I knew a lot hinged on the next few minutes. Matt Harris. So what you think? Get the gang back together? Matt Harris. It worked beautifully once. Samantha Mitchell. Oh yeah, I want it to be exactly like last time. Exactly like last time. Is she asking this a-hole to track down the other 3 guys from that night? I lost my temper. I didn't fly off the handle and rush out into the room and punch her in the mouth. I kept my wits enough to not let her know I was watching her. What the hell? I said as I typed a simple command into my computer. Moments later, I knew it had worked because I could hear Samantha trying to get her laptop to work. One of the features NSA had asked for was a command that would wipe out a hard drive from a remote computer. This was mainly to prevent enemies from getting proof they were being spied on. It also worked in the case of one of their computers being stolen or compromised. In my moment of anger, I entered the command and wiped out Samantha's hard drive. I had stopped the conversation cold, but I also stopped my main source of information. I silently cursed myself and began brainstorming ways to get back into her secret world. 10 minutes later, she came into my office with her laptop. She looked lost. Mike, my laptop seems to have died. Can you fix it, baby? I was fascinated to check her laptop out. I hadn't gotten to see any of my handiwork from the field tests, so I wanted to take full advantage of this situation. I was also concerned that I had lost a very important intelligence channel. I decided I would go buy her a new laptop and load my program onto it as soon as I could the next day. Looks like your hard drive is shot, hun. I'll get you a new laptop on my way home tomorrow evening. Don't worry about it, baby. I'll have Rachel issue me a company laptop until I get back from Dallas. Hell, I didn't want her to use company machines. I was morally bankrupt enough to put snooper programs on her machine, but I didn't want to add it to her employer's equipment. Mainly, it could be construed as industrial espionage, and I didn't think it could be detected, but until my guys had exhausted every possibility, I didn't know it couldn't be stumbled upon by some half-assed techno-geek. So like it or not, I was going into her big trip blind. At least I knew I had the PI on the ground at the right place and times. I bought her a new laptop the next day on my lunch break. By the time I was ready to go home for the day, I had all of my extras on her machine and running. I took it home to her and she was pleased, but her presentations for her meetings were all on the laptop that she borrowed from work. She had a big presentation to give on the last day of the meeting. She said she'd wait until she was back from Dallas to use her new one. I did get a thank you kiss out of the deal. So while Samantha was in Dallas, I sat and stewed. Mostly I tried to keep my mind off of what might be happening by working on the newest updates for the NSA programs. They liked what we had done so far, so much so that they sent a whole new list of specifications they wanted the software to meet. Of course, they gave us weeks to do what looked like it would take months to do, so my crew was working at home as well as at work. So I was good and tired when this morning rolled around. I went to work for a few hours. Between running to the break room for coffee and going to the bathroom, I don't know how I got anything accomplished. At 11:30, I went to meet with Jerry Conant at his office. 10 minutes after I sat in his conference room, Jerry walked in with a packet of papers and a sheepish look on his face. Somehow, I knew what he was going to say before he said it. "Mike, I've got some good news and I've got some bad news," I finished for him. I felt my blood beginning to boil as I envisioned him handing me a USB drive of Samantha being with 3 or more guys in some Dallas hotel room. Jerry must have known what I was thinking as he handed me a USB drive and copies of the report. No, it's not bad news like that, or at least we don't think so. Let me start at the beginning. Jerry's secretary brought me in a bottle of water and quickly left. "Okay, David followed your wife from your driveway to the airport," he said. 3 guys talked to her, but nothing came of it. He actually sat behind her on the flight. She read a book, an H.P. Lovecraft compilation, it seems. She arrived in Dallas 3 minutes late and claimed her bags. Sandy picked her up and followed from there. She went straight to the ground transportation area and got the shuttle that serves the hotel where she was staying. She arrived at her hotel, checked in, and then took her bags up to her room. "Jerry, are all of the mundane details necessary?" I asked out of frustration. "Well, no, I guess they aren't." She went to the evening meetings and dinner and went to bed after watching Letterman. Meanwhile, we managed to find out what flight Harris and the other 2 guys were on and trailed them to the Best Western a mile down the road from Samantha. Those 3 spent the night drinking and reminiscing. There is an audio-video file on the drive I gave you. Yesterday morning, Samantha had breakfast alone in the hotel diner, went to her meetings, had lunch with colleagues, had meetings all afternoon, and went to her room after the meetings let out. Harris, Darling, and Phillips showed up at her hotel 3 or 4 times, talked to the desk clerk once, and made phone calls from the lobby. Samantha's room phone rang in conjunction with their calls. I was getting more pissed off by the minute. Most of all, I wanted to know Samantha's culpability in all of this. I also wondered why, if Samantha had said she wanted the gangbang to be exactly the same, there were only 3 guys. Jerry continued his report. I was focusing on my own question until he got interesting. During her dinner, Harris sat down at her table. He asked her how late she was going to be, and after she replied, he left and rejoined Darling and Phillips in a bar next to the hotel. After the meetings were done for the evening, Samantha went to the hotel lounge with her colleagues. She took a call on her cell and wrote a couple of things on a napkin. Sandy couldn't get close enough to hear what was said or to see what was written on the napkin. When a colleague asked Samantha, she just replied it was personal business. At 9:30, the party broke up, and they all headed for their rooms. At 9:45, Samantha answered a phone call to her room phone. David wasn't able to record it. Then she went down to the lounge again. Sandy was in the lounge, and my 3rd guy, Jeff, tailed Harris, Darling, and Phillips to the lounge from the bar. Samantha came down to the lounge and sat and talked to the 3 guys for 40 minutes. The conversation was pretty mundane, but you have an audio copy of that too. When Samantha finished her drink, she bade them all good night and left for her room. Harris then remarked to Darling and Phillips that she had given him her cue to wait 10 minutes. He'd then go up and call them when she was ready, but he wanted a few minutes alone with her first. 10 minutes later, Harris knocked on Samantha's door. They had a short conversation outside her door. David's recorder still wasn't working. David said it got a bit heated, and security escorted Harris from the hotel. So far, it sounded like good news to me. So then, as soon as she gets out of her meetings today, she'll fly home. She'll arrive at 4:00 and all will be fine. Well, in theory, it could turn out that way. After breakfast this morning, Samantha headed to her room and collected her luggage. Usually, the folks at these meetings do that and stash their stuff in a cloakroom. Sandy got separated from her on the way to the elevator and had to wait. David was napping since Sandy was covering Samantha and didn't hear her come or go. When Sandy finally made it up to the room, she listened and couldn't hear anything. She and David immediately headed downstairs to try to reacquire her before the meetings. "Look," he said, "I will only charge you for half of the job." When David and Sandy couldn't locate her at her hotel, they called Jeff. Jeff said his trio also left early, but he lost them in the morning rush hour traffic. "I have told my team to come home. I'm so sorry, Mike, but there's just no knowing where she is. We only know she's not in her meeting, her hotel, or Harris Hotel. That was 50 minutes ago." I stormed through my front door and was greeted by Rocky, my 3-year-old German Shepherd. I hope you are ready to live on the lam, boy, I said as I headed to my office. I was going to start getting the bank accounts drained, set up a vacation fund for Samantha, and then make a quick trip upstairs to pack. I sat down and had just started my PC when I realized that Samantha's laptop was no longer on my desk. I heard something behind me and turned around to face her. "I thought I heard you come in," she said. I turned and put my plan into motion. "I missed you, baby. Hey, do you want to go to dinner? Don't you know that you are a shooting star? Don't you know that you are a shooting star and all the world will love you just as long as you are?" Paul Rogers' voice pours into my ears as the clock hits 3:00 a.m. I look to my side and smile at my sleeping Rocky. I silently wish my life could be as simple as Heiseit: sleep, get rubbed, go for a walk, and take a nap. What a life. Not that my life is all that bad. I have a great job, a nice house, and a faithful wife. When I came home earlier today, ready to confront Samantha, I was surprised to find her standing behind me. "I thought I heard you come in. Were you talking to someone?" A million things ran through my mind as I realized I had to change my plan on the fly. I was just about to talk her into taking a nice drive with me out into the boondocks when she handed me a box with a ribbon tied around it. From the look on her face, she had pulled off some kind of gifting coup DGC tat. I pulled the ribbon and opened the box. I found myself looking at the number 4 piston clock from Eddie Hill's historic 93-second run in Houston. I couldn't speak. I looked up to be pulled into my wife's loving arms. I felt the tears in my eyes as I struggled to put my deep, heartfelt thanks into words. Samantha silenced me with a kiss. "I did it. I got you the Holy Grail." She then told me how she'd been in communication with the guy in Abilene for the past month, using her friend's email and her work phone to avoid me seeing anything on the bills. She even had her boss negotiating with the guy at times. She had finagled getting her presentation moved up a day so she could meet with the guy before she flew home. She checked out of the hotel and headed straight to Fort Worth to meet him. He was at a collector's show there, and then she took the first flight home. So here I am at 3:00 in the morning, listening to music on my PC in my den, wearing nothing but a pair of silk boxers with pictures of Shaggy and Scooby-Doo all over them. They were a birthday gift from Samantha 3 years ago, and I had to put on something to go out and move Samantha's BMW into the garage at 2:00 a.m. The Jimmy John's kid also saw me in them when he brought our sandwiches around 7:00. I am removing most of my spyware from Samantha's computer. I'll keep a ghost program there, looking for a few keywords, but I am going to trust Samantha. She has earned it, and then some. Thanks for tuning in to this intense story of deception, suspicion, and unexpected twists. What would you do if you found yourself in a situation like this? Could you trust again? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more gripping stories.
Alex sat at the table, staring at his bottle of Budweiser. Had only grabbed a six-pack because if things went south in the next few minutes, he didn't want to have enough beer to get wasted. He heard the music stop upstairs, so he knew she was almost ready. Usually, he worked late on Wednesdays because it was his wife's night out with her friends. His folks would watch their daughter Olivia while his wife went to have a few drinks with her coworkers. He would finish up the week's reports to take off early on Friday and spend more time with his family. It was a great setup. He managed his busy schedule. His parents got time to spoil their 6-year-old granddaughter, and his wife got personal time to unwind with friends. At least, that's what Head thought. As he heard her moving around upstairs, he remembered the lunch he had with Julia last Monday. I really should get out of the office more, he thought, or at least see if they deliver those sandwiches because they were fantastic. He had taken a seat where he could watch the door and soon spotted a familiar figure entering the restaurant. She looked around, so he stood up a bit and waved. She saw him and walked in his direction. At 35, Julia was the oldest of the friends his wife went out with. She was also his favorite and the only one who was married. She had a way of making everyone feel at ease without being a pushover. He had to admit she was pretty attractive too, with her dark wavy hair and fair skin. No curves to speak of, but she had a really pretty face and legs that seemed to go on forever. Her husband, Robert, thought she hung the moon, and she felt the same way. She still got her share of male attention. As she pulled up a chair and sat across from him, she said, "Thanks for meeting me, Alex. I know how busy you are at work, and taking this time out couldn't have been easy." "No problem, Julia," Alex said, "but I have to tell you, I feel a little uncomfortable meeting you here without Rachel. I don't usually have lunch with pretty ladies I'm not married to, but you said it was about Rachel, so I'm all ears. I'm guessing you want to surprise her for her birthday next week?" He wasn't expecting to see the sad look on her face when he mentioned having lunch with her. He was even more surprised to see her face fall when he mentioned Rachel's birthday. "What's going on, Alex? I know you and Rachel love each other, and I've seen you together enough to know that what you have is special, so it's only because of that I'm coming to you. This might end up ruining my friendship with her, but if it can save your marriage, I'm okay with it. There's no easy way to say this, but Rachel has been seeing someone for the last 5 months. Alex was stunned. This has to be a joke, a bad joke. He told Julia as much. "I'm so sorry, Alex, but it's not a joke. About 4 months ago, after you picked up that big project, Rachel was in a funk at work. She was grumpy, and when we went out, she was quieter than usual. After a few cocktails, we were able to get out of her that she was missing you and feeling neglected. She also started talking about how she felt like you two were just a typical married couple, letting life pass you by." At this point, the waiter stopped by to take Julia's order. She got a Caesar salad and iced tea with lemon. Alex was still reeling from the idea that his wife would be sneaking around. Over the 12 years they'd been together, he would have bet his life that Rachel would have told him if she was unhappy. He thought they'd always been honest about their feelings, even when they knew the other would disagree. He looked at Julia and asked the question he needed an answer to immediately. "Has she slept with him?" He whispered. "No, at least not that I know of, and I think I'd be able to tell. Believe it or not, your wife is a pretty open person, which is why I'm shocked by how she's acting. Alex, you need to know that every woman I've talked to has said these same things. I figure it's almost how you guys always complain about being dragged down by the ball and chain, or whatever terms you use among yourselves." When she started talking about this, we all commiserated and told her the same things. "You've got a great guy. You should pay more attention to him, yada yada. Unfortunately, that night my sister was there." "What does your sister have to do with anything?" Alex asked, trying to keep his anger in check. "Frankly, my sister is a piece of work," Julia replied. The waiter who brought her tea raised an eyebrow as he overheard her comment. Julia took a sip, then continued. "My parents were serial cheaters. I have no idea who cheated first, but they were always looking to get back at each other. When I was 18, I asked them why they bothered staying together, and they looked at me like I was from another planet. They told me they loved each other, and that's all that mattered. This affected my sister and me differently. I felt like cheating was the best way to ruin a happy relationship, and my sister felt that cheating was fine as long as you loved each other. I love my sister, but she's so wrong about things. Anyway, back to the story. My sister Emily made the comment that if she wasn't getting romance at home, maybe she should try finding it somewhere else. I told Emily she was wrong, but Marie and Isabella started talking about the best way to pick up a guy and how to keep it secret. I think for those two, it was purely an academic conversation, especially since they aren't married. At the time, Rachel said she would never go behind your back, but I think my dumb sister planted a seed in your wife's head." "Why do you think that?" Alex asked. Now that he wasn't sure she had slept around, he was beginning to process more information. None of this was fun to hear, but he had always believed that knowledge was power. Because the next week, Ethan Harper and his crew showed up at the Red Barrel, where we were drinking. Rachel says she didn't invite him, but she did mention to him that we were going to try line dancing that night. It was actually kind of fun having more people try something new, and it would have been great except for Ethan. Now he had a name. Knowledge is power. "Tell me about this, Ethan," Alex growled. Julia smiled a little at the tone of Alex's voice. She continued, "Ethan Harper is the company Romeo. He takes a shot at every woman, and any who give him the slightest attention find themselves the target of his charms. He doesn't care if they're married, or even if they're particularly attractive, he just likes the chase. Your wife turned him down early on, and he never pushed until that night. Now he's chasing your wife, and she's running instead of standing her ground and putting a stop to it. It's an open secret that if Ethan gets any more harassment complaints, he's fired. She could end his advances, but she isn't. In fact, they've been regular lunch buddies in the cafeteria for the last few months, whispering and giggling. I've tried talking to her about this, but she just gets mad and tells me they're friends and that Ethan listens to her and understands her problems. I asked her if she would act like this if you were sitting across the table, and she had the decency to blush. Then she got mad and said something to the effect that you wouldn't even notice. After that, I backed off and decided to keep an eye on her. They seemed to cool it off at work, and I thought that things had run their course until 3 weeks ago. Julia's lunch arrived, and she started eating it while looking at Alex for a reaction. Alex took a long drink of his lemonade, but didn't taste it at all. His chest felt empty, and his eyes didn't want to focus. He was wondering how she could think that he wouldn't care about her flirting with another man. He knew he had never been overly jealous, but that was because he loved and trusted his wife. And as for not noticing her, he wondered if he had been that distant with this work project. It was going to be a huge payoff, but maybe he had taken it too far. He wondered what had happened 3 weeks ago. Did he really want to know? They ate in silence for the next few minutes while he tried to process what she had told him. He was angry, no doubt. There was no reason for her to be so tight with another man, but he could almost see her logic. If he had been more attentive, then maybe this whole thing wouldn't have happened. Also, other than not telling him about being so flirty with this guy, she hadn't actually lied to him. Lies of omission? Sure, but so far, he could overlook her behavior and work to fix this. He would talk to her and get her side of the story. As long as she was honest and agreed to stay away from the jerk, they could move on. So far, he didn't see any lasting damage done unless something happened within the last 3 weeks. So tell me about 3 weeks ago. How bad is it? He was back on solid mental ground. He had his feet under him. He could work with this. Julia looked at him with sympathy. This is where it gets rough, Alex. 3 weeks ago, we all ended up at the Red Barrel again for line dancing. Ethan and his boys showed up, and we were all dancing together and having a good time. Rachel had been drinking a little more than she usually does. Ethan had been buying her drinks all night, and she was getting quite tipsy. I went to the bathroom with her, and she was more out of it than I realized. When she came out of the bathroom stall, she had her underwear in her hand and put it in her purse. I asked her what that was about, and she said she wanted to feel free. Well, she was almost drunk, so I chalked it up to the alcohol and helped her back to our table. I started rounding up Marie and Isabella to take Rachel back to my house, so she wouldn't come home too drunk when I noticed that Rachel and Ethan were bumping and grinding on the dance floor. The line dancing was done, and it was just a jukebox for the rest of the night. I saw her underwear in her hand, and she put them in Ethan's pocket as the song ended. Unfortunately, so did everyone else. There were catcalls from all over the bar, and Ethan was grinning like a Cheshire cat. Then he went and gave her an almost deep kiss. One of his friends was holding up a cell phone. I wanted so bad for her to stop him or something, but she just went along with it. Oh, Alex, I'm so sorry. She stopped as she saw his reaction. His jaw was literally hanging open. He had to get out of here. Excuse me for a second, bathroom. He stuttered as he got up and walked away. He went inside and locked the door behind him. He splashed some water on his face and gripped the sink as hard as he could. He remembered the night she was talking about. Rachel usually got home around 10:30, but that night it was almost 1:00 when she came in. Julia had called and told him that she was staying at her place for a while because Shed had too much to drink. She would call a cab for Rachel when she was more sober. This had happened a few times before, and Alex had always been relieved that Julia and the girls were so responsible about not getting a DUI. He always thought that getting a little blitzed was part of the fun of going out and cutting loose. He honestly wasn't mad about it. He also remembered what happened that night when she got home. He remembered being woken up to the warm sensation of Rachel's lips on his tool. This whole thing had taken him by surprise, and before he knew it, "Oh my God, honey, that was incredible," he said. "I'm sorry it was over so soon, but please let me make it up to you. Let's see what you got." As she stood up, he grabbed her head and gave her the deepest kiss he could. He tasted some booze and a little bit of himself, but he wasn't grossed out at all. After her performance, the least she deserved was a kiss. He broke their lip lock and started kissing the crook of her neck. She always giggled and squirmed when he would do that. He traced her collar down to between her chest. He had heard that some women had really sensitive nipples, but Rachel was not one of those. That was fine with him, though, because after 10 years together, he had found a few other places on her body that would excite her. He let his tongue drift slowly all the way down through her narrow strip of hair and between her swollen lips. He pushed her onto the bed. "Please, baby, make love to me," he said. He could feel her body tensing up. He wanted to warn her about waking their daughter, but it was fantastic. "Oh my God, baby, I haven't felt that good in a while." She stopped talking after that, and they engaged in some of the hottest wrestling they ever had. "I taste pretty good, don't I?" she said as she broke from their kiss. "Sweetest thing ever, baby," he replied. "But don't think we are done. You started something that I now have to finish." He smiled. This was turning into the best night ever. "Screw me, lover," she growled as she looked at him with lust-filled eyes. That night, he had a beautiful woman who wanted him to take her. They both had amazing sex. He snapped back to the present. Now he was shaking with rage as he felt that she got all worked up over her boyfriend and came home to take it out on him. Damn, he thought. What if she was thinking of him while we were having sex? He splashed more water on his face, dried himself off, and went back outside. As he sat down, he saw a look of sympathy on Julia's face but had no idea how to respond. His sandwich was forgotten on the table. "What else do I need to know, Julia?" he asked. "Honestly, Alex, that's about all there is. The last couple of girls' nights have been at Mary's house with wine and movies. At work, Rachel has been acting very cool towards Ethan, even though he's been really sniffing around her. I had thought it was done, but just yesterday I saw them talking. They shut up when I came around the corner, so I have no idea what they're up to, but I'm done with it. I figured you need to know, and maybe you can do something since she's not listening to her friends anymore." The waiter came to bring them their check. He grabbed it before she could touch it and started fishing out his credit card. "I want to see these guys in action together and maybe scare them straight," he said. "Rachel says you guys are going to the Red Barrel this week. So this Thursday when you guys go, I'm going to show up and observe from across the room." He stopped talking abruptly as he noticed the horrified look on Julia's face. "What did I say wrong?" he asked. "Alex, Marie has a doctor's appointment early in the morning on Friday, and Isabella is going to see her sister in Florida. If Rachel is going out Thursday, it isn't with us." She reached across the table and grabbed his hand. "I'm so sorry, honey," she said sadly. "I know better than to ask if you're okay, but here's my home phone number. Call any time to talk to Robert or me." Her husband was a therapist by trade, so talking to him could potentially be helpful. "Thank you for telling me, Julia. I know it must have been difficult for you, but I really think you're being a good person and a good friend. I don't know what's going to happen going forward, but now I know what's going on, and I can take some action. Thank you again." As he thanked her, he stood up to leave, signing the credit card bill and walking out. Friday was a breakthrough on the project Alex had been working on. They had been able to secure pre-manufactured parts from a startup company in Hartford that would shave 4 months off the turnaround time, which still gave them at least a week's cushion even with spotty transport logistics. 2 more phone calls, and this plan would be done 2 months ahead and save the military millions. The cash bonus would be as huge as Alex had thought it would be, and the recognition that having his name on the project would bring would be nice. He should be as happy as a clam. Instead, he was thinking about how much he didn't want to go home and do what he figured he had to. He had decided to see what he could find out on his own about this affair. He couldn't access her work email, but he didn't think they would put anything on there since it was monitored. He did log into her Gmail account and found nothing. She could have made a separate account, but he would have no way of knowing that until he got on their home computer. Part of the problem was that Alex knew he wasn't very tech-savvy. The idea of buying surveillance cameras or rigging his house with voice-activated microphones sounded cool in theory, but he already had a plan in place for confronting her. All he wanted was as much information as he could get to know how far he would have to go to try and save or scuttle his marriage. Rachel had already picked up their daughter Olivia from his parents and had convinced him to bring Italian home. When he sent her the text asking what she wanted, she replied, "After 12 years together and 12 of those married, you should know what I like, babe." He couldn't resist a dig in his reply. "I just wanted to make sure you were still happy with the usual." His phone dinged back. "You're right. Get me an extra breadstick," smiley face. If it weren't for the bombshell dropped yesterday, he would have been so happy to come home an hour early and just spend time with his wife and kid. When he looked at his clock, however, he reminded himself that before the project began, this time would have been considered 2 hours late. He also realized that he hadn't been home early with his family on a Friday since this had started. Add to that being tired and stressed even when he was home, and it was easy to see how Rachel could feel neglected. Not that she had any right to do what she was doing. Walking through the front door, he saw his wife reaching for a bottle of wine. He stood there and just admired her form. At 35, she was a woman in her prime. Her 57 frame had just enough curves to be mesmerizing. He had a great view of her tight figure, even apparent through the loose joggers she was wearing. She had her hair pulled back in a ponytail, and when she turned around and hit him with that $1,000,000 smile, he couldn't help but think how damn lucky he was to be with her. Then he remembered everything Julia had told him. "I'm so glad you're home, babe. How was work?" She asked as she walked over to give him a kiss on the lips. "Pretty good. We had a major breakthrough on some supplies, so we're probably going to be done at least a couple of months ahead of schedule, maybe even more. I know I've been out of it with this project. I also know that it sucks that I can't talk specifics with you about it due to the fact that it's classified. I just want you to know that you and Olivia are the most important things in my life, and I will do everything in my power to protect us as long as I can," he said, looking her straight in the eyes. Did he see a flash of regret or guilt, or was he just looking for something? This was one of those moments he cursed not being able to read people well. He was often labeled a straight shooter. He tended to speak plainly and directly and expected others to do the same. He knew he could come off as blunt at first, but when people saw that he meant what he said and that he would be upfront about things, they actually liked him. His approach had worked for him for his 38 years, and he saw little reason to change until now. "Oh, honey," she replied. "We both love you to death and understand. I will admit I wish you could be plugged into the family a bit more. I get that this is only temporary. It does make me feel so good to hear you acknowledge the fact, though." She almost looked like she had tears forming in her eyes. Was she really this good of an actress? "So, can you tell me what getting the project done early means for you?" she asked as she started pulling the food containers from the bag. "Well, first and foremost, it means a very significant pay bonus. I don't know how much until the project gets greenlit, but we're not talking small change. Then there's the fact that handling our first government project and being so damn good at it should get the company more work. My name being lead will also get some government headhunters looking to scoop me up. The bosses know this, so I should be able to leverage some pretty good stuff out of them, assuming everything goes the way it should," he said, talking around a bite of lasagna. "Haven't I told you all this already?" he asked her. "Not that I remember, babe," she replied. "All I remember you saying was that you were going to be taking on a big contract that you couldn't talk about, but it should be worth it. Then it seems I haven't really talked to you since then." She looked kind of sad. She perked up. "But it looks like I'll have my husband back soon." He looked at her. "Time to do a little fishing. So, what bar are you ladies hitting up tomorrow night? Should I stop by after work and make sure you all are good to drive home?" he asked with what he hoped was a light tone. "Oh, actually, we decided to hit the Red Barrel for some line dancing, but I think we'll be done before you get off work." She looked down at her chicken parmigiana as she said this. His heart broke. Olivia chose that time to be done with her spaghetti and asked him to read her stories. He picked up his plate, rinsed it off in the sink, then scooped her up and took her to the living room. For the next hour, he doted on his child, reading story after story until she was fast asleep. He heard soft snoring from the sofa and saw his beautiful wife curled up with her book dropped in her lap. He picked up his daughter and walked her upstairs to her bedroom. He put her into her bed and tucked her in. His eyes started filling up with tears as he thought about what the next few days were going to bring. He wanted her to remember these good nights with her mother and father and not the tough ones that were likely ahead. Wiping away his tears, he walked back downstairs to the couch where his wife was asleep. He kissed her lips gently and pulled a blanket up over her so she wouldn't get cold. Then he went looking for her phone. He found it plugged into the wall on the nightstand in their room. He swiped up, left, and right to unlock it and started looking through her texts. It didn't take long to find what he was looking for. Scrolling back, he saw the messages started about 5 months ago. "Hey, gorgeous. It was fun seeing you girls out dancing last night. Same here. Alex works late on Wednesdays, and the in-laws watch the Munchkin so we can have girl time. Your hubby is a great guy, letting you get out of the house every once in a while. Yes, he's wonderful. For the next few weeks, all the texts were pretty harmless. Then this exchange. Julia read me the riot act today about our lunch breaks. I was mad, but she has a good point. I don't want people to get the wrong idea about us. It's just harmless talking. We aren't doing anything wrong. She asked if Alex would be okay with how we were acting, and that made me think that we're maybe sending out the wrong vibe. Besides, I don't need to be sharing all my problems with another guy. I'm going to try to talk to Alex. Alex didn't remember her trying to talk to him about anything, but that might have been when he found out they needed what was essentially surgical-grade stainless steel for the application. He spent days trying to track down a supplier that could manufacture the quantities they needed. During that time, you probably could have dropped the bomb on him, and he wouldn't have noticed. So far, all the texts were harmless from her end. He figured it was pretty obvious that Jerk was playing her, though. How could she not see this? He scrolled down to see the next set of texts. You need to give those back today. What are you talking about? Smiley face. You know exactly what I mean. My friends are so mad at me right now, and I don't blame them. If Alex finds out how much of a fool I was acting like, he might leave me. So, you don't want me to show him the video? Smiley face. What video? You can't let anyone at work see that. Chris was there, and he took a video on his phone. I'll make sure he deletes it. You will owe me, though. Smiley face. Fine. I can't lose Alex, not after last night. What happened last night? It's really none of your business. Was he mad you got home late and drunk? LOL. Hell no. Let's just say there was some serious world-rocking going on and leave it at that. Smiley face. So, some dirty dancing with me got you all worked up for your hubby? Hee. You should be thanking me. Smiley face. You were being a jerk. Last night was off the charts, and it was because Alex and I love each other. Now give me my underwear back and make sure that damn video gets erased. That sentence makes me sound like such a fool. Alex deserves better than me. No, he's lucky to have you. He wasn't there to keep an eye on you. Was he? I'm sure he's a great guy, but you go out by yourself a lot. I don't need anyone to keep an eye on me. Just be the friend you claim you are and take care of what I ask, please. Sorry. Of course, I'll help you, and then you can buy me dinner. Smiley face. Just make sure no one sees that video, and I'll do whatever you want. Nothing until last Monday. I heard ladies' night was canceled. How about that dinner? Smiley face. Not a good idea. So sorry. Oh, come on. Hubby's going to be at work, and the girls are leaving you alone. One night out with a friend, and we can chat about stuff like we used to in the cafeteria. Besides, you owe me. Smiley face. Fine. I'll meet you at the Red Barrel at 8. Nope. Smiley face. Meet me at the Hyatt instead. They have great drink specials, and I don't want to be yelling over a bunch of drunk idiots. They'll be getting a room in case we drink too much. Fine, but this is just a couple of friends having dinner, and I do owe you for making sure that video never got out. Got it? It's bad enough that people from work heard about it. Don't worry about it. I watched Chris delete the video, and soon someone else will do something scandalous, and you'll be fine. See you at 8. There it was, probably the end of a marriage. How many times do you see your wife accept a date with another man at a hotel bar? How could this possibly go well? How could she possibly think that sex wasn't on the table? He closed out the text messages and plugged the phone back on the charger. He got undressed and slid into the bed alone. Sleep was a long time coming. Thursday, she came down the stairs wearing the little black dress that she always wore when they would go out on their dates. She looked beautiful. She stopped at the bottom of the stairs as she saw him sitting at the table. Oh, Alex, I didn't expect you home this early today, babe. She looked kind of pale. We need to talk, Rachel, he said with almost no emotion in his voice. This is probably the most important talk we will ever have. Please, have a seat. She sat down. She looked scared. She went to hold his hand like they would normally do, but he pulled it away. I know that there is no girls' night out. I know that you have been seeing Ethan Harper behind my back, he started. Alex, please, let me explain. She was cut off abruptly by him slamming the table with his fist. Damn it, Rachel, listen to me, he yelled. You don't get to talk until I have said my piece. She cowered back and started to cry. He looked impassively at her and continued. As I was saying, I know you have been cozying up with this Ethan at lunch. I know you have been dancing with him at the Red Barrel. I know you took your underwear off and gave them to him after some sexy bump and grind on the dance floor. I know the only reason you jumped me 3 weeks ago was that you were all worked up over him. I also know that you were going on a date with him tonight at a hotel bar where your boyfriend will have a room ready. I don't know if you have slept with him or done anything else yet. I am not sure what would have stopped you if you haven't. He paused, trying to get his anger under control. Rachel, you lied by omission to me about Ethan. You lied by omission to me about your pantyless dancing, and you lied to me about going out with the girls. Frankly, I'm tired, and my trust in you is broken. I'm not sure I even want to work on this marriage anymore. Your actions make me think you don't care about this marriage anymore. So we'll give you 3 choices. He held up a finger. Choice 1, you walk out that door and go see your jerk boyfriend. Even if you don't sleep together tonight, this choice will end our marriage. 0 chance of me wanting to save it. He held up a second finger. Choice 2, you and I sit here all night, and you try to convince me to work on staying married to you. You'll have a hard sell because I'm not inclined to trust a single word out of your mouth. However, you might be able to do it because I do love you, and we have a child to think about. I'd say you have a 50 chance of me working to save this. He held up a third finger. Choice 3, you take me to see your Romeo tonight. You tell him to never talk or contact you again in front of me. Then you let me and him talk for at least 15 minutes out of earshot. This choice will gain you the most respect and will also go the farthest towards making me want to work on us. If you haven't slept with him or done anything else with him, I promise I will be 100 in as far as making this relationship work. Also, note, if you have done anything with him, this is the only option that might possibly allow us to work out. She looked like she was about to throw up and was staring at him in what could only be described as horror. 0, 50, or 100, Rachel. What's it going to be? The question hung in the air for almost a minute. It looked like my wife was trying not to vomit when she looked up at me. Alex, I'm so sorry about everything, and I desperately need to talk to you. In answer to your question, though, do you want to drive, or do you want me to? Well, that was unexpected. I really did think she would walk out on us to be with her boy toy. I thought for sure she would sit here all night trying to make excuses for her behavior. Bringing me to see her jerk really did win her some points. She was still in the red, though. I picked up my keys and followed her out to my car. I opened the door for her out of force of habit, and she almost started to cry. As I was pulling out of the driveway, she looked over at me. I really screwed us up, didn't I? She asked in a small voice. Yes, Rachel, you really did, I replied, keeping my eyes on the road. What can I do to fix it? She asked. I thought for a bit. I had a couple of plans I was formulating. Well, first thing, complete honesty from here on out. I shouldn't have to say this, but apparently, you think it's okay to not mention things I should know or outright lie to me. Along with that, you're going to have to find a way to make me believe what you're saying. I don't know how you plan to do that, but frankly, I'm not the one who ruined our trust. Another thing I don't feel I should have to mention, but he's dead to you. If we stay together, you do not talk to him during work. You do not ask him how his day is going. If he shows up at a bar you're at, you leave. If you cannot leave, you call me immediately. You do not accept drinks or gifts from him, no matter what he says. He receives no interaction from you. Next thing, when we get back from tonight, you are going to tell me everything, even stuff you don't think I want to hear. I understand that I have been consumed by this project, so I will take some blame. If you have hard feelings for me, then let me know. And the last thing for now, plan on making time for marriage counseling sessions. If you want to pick the counselor, feel free to do so. Maybe Robert can suggest someone. This is contingent upon certain information, however. As I finished talking, her phone beeped that she had a text. She looked down and got even paler. It's him. He's wondering where I am, she said softly. I held out my hand for her phone. Wordlessly, she passed it to me. I scrolled back through her texts. There were a couple of new ones from earlier today. Hey, I got a room with a jacuzzi. Maybe after dinner, we can relax. Bring your swimsuit. Smiley face. You're not going to be able to get me drunk enough to get into a hot tub with you. I'm not bringing a swimsuit. We'll have to see. You know how you get when you're drunk. Maybe you won't need a swimsuit. Winky face. And then just now, where you at? I got a glass of wine waiting for you. I texted back running a little late. I got a surprise for you. You brought your swimsuit? Excellent. I handed the phone back to my wife. She read the texts and just hung her head. You know he's not helping your cause, right? Just the text from today make it sound like you were going to hook up with him tonight. How bad will it look if I scroll back farther? I said. Of course, I knew exactly how bad it looked. I guess I should ask, do you think that your text messages today were inappropriate flirting? Can you see how these exchanges have killed all the trust one have in you? I heard her sob. Alex, I swear, I only planned on having dinner tonight. I never planned to sleep with him. I couldn't help it. I looked at her like she was an idiot. Did you plan on giving him your underwear after getting wasted and bumping and grinding with him a few weeks ago? I didn't think it was possible for her to get any paler. I was wrong. Rachel, we're almost there. You should probably do something with your makeup and think about what you're going to say to Ethan. Oh, and don't drink the wine. She pulled the visor down and got a tissue from the glove box. She started pulling herself together and stopped sobbing. As she started putting on her mascara, she asked in a more normal tone of voice, Alex, I can see why you think Ethan was playing me. Hearing you talk about it makes me think he was. But Alex, how could I have not seen it? I know my recent decisions don't show it, but I'm not a dumb little girl. I've fended off better looking and more sophisticated guys than Ethan. So why did he get to me? That right there is one of the reasons I have a tough time believing anything you say, Rachel. You're a beautiful, intelligent woman who should be able to see this for what it is. That's why I have to wonder if you were going along with it willingly, I replied. Suck. Add to that the fact that you got drunk at a bar with this guy and lied to me about going to dinner with him tonight. No wonder you were so angry and hurt. Her color looked to be coming back, and her voice got a little stronger. Okay, I screwed this up, and now I have to find a way to fix it. Thank you for giving me a chance. She wanted to give me a kiss, but I turned my head at the last minute and let it land on my cheek. I'm still not over this. Not by a long shot. She looked at me almost in shock. We're normally pretty affectionate. I hope we can get back to that. What do you want me to say to him? She asked me as we turned into the parking lot of the hotel. I found a parking spot and killed the engine after pulling in. I looked over at her and let some of my anger boil over. What do I want you to say, Rachel? Our relationship is on life support here because of your actions with this jerk. The two of you have destroyed a central pillar of our marriage. Our daughter could be spending Thanksgiving with you and Christmas with me. I want this fact to sink in, then tell him whatever the hell you want. She sat there quietly for a minute, then drew in a shuddering breath and opened the car door. As we walked up to the restaurant portion of the hotel, she made a move as if to grab my arm. I didn't pull away, but neither did I welcome her touch. We walked in, and there was a pretty auburn-haired girl standing behind a small kiosk. Welcome to Olive Garden. Are there two in your party? She asked. I was about to respond when my wife spoke up. We're supposed to meet someone here. They've already been seated, she said very businesslike. Oh, okay. Feel free to look around, the hostess replied. I didn't know what the guy looked like, so I followed my wife's lead. She elbowed me gently and nodded to the back of the restaurant. There was a man sitting at the back, close to the door leading to the hotel. It looked like he was doing something with his phone. She walked with a determined step toward the table. She stopped and didn't bother sitting down. He looked up and saw her and gave a big grin. It took him a second to realize that she was with the guy behind her. When he noticed me, his grin slipped, and his eyes narrowed a bit. Ethan, this is my husband, Alex. He has concerns about our relationship, and after talking to him, I have to agree. For the first time in our marriage, I have given my husband reason to doubt my loyalty. I will be working hard to repair the breach of trust one caused by my relationship with you. From this point on, I want nothing to do with you. You have no reason to call me, text me, or otherwise try to communicate with me. I acknowledge my part in letting our relationship get to this point. Now I choose to end it. My husband knows about my reprehensible actions at the Red Barrel. I will be doing everything I can to save my relationship with my husband, including informing HR first thing tomorrow about the entire situation. I will tell them that any attempt to talk to me about anything not directly related to our work will be considered unwanted attention. Now, I'm going to sit at the bar while my husband has a chat with you. As she turned away, she planted a huge kiss right on me before I could react. She looked into my eyes for a second. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I couldn't help but check out her as she walked over to the bar. That went better than I expected. As I slid into the booth across from the disconcerted playboy, I couldn't help but size him up a bit. Dark hair, thin build, and dressed to perfection. I guess he would be considered attractive, but I've never been good at judging guys. He was probably about as tall as me, although it was tough to tell because he was seated. I couldn't help but notice that he kept glancing at the glass of wine that was sitting across the table from him. This almost confirmed my suspicions. This was the time to play it cool. I knew roughly what I wanted to happen, but I was having to make some of this up as I went along. Thinking on my feet was not one of my strengths. And here you thought that your surprise was her in a swimsuit, I said with a half smile. You really think she told you everything? He replied with a smirk. Now that this sucker was in front of me, I felt calm. This was a problem I could handle. Actually, I do. I've known that woman for 12 years, and I've been married to her for 12. I think I have a better handle on her than some pretty boy who's been taking a run at her for 5 months. I kept the smile on my face. The waiter came by and asked for my drink order. I ordered a double Jameson on the rocks. She gives a great Aussie kiss, he said, still trying to smirk. He glanced at the glass of wine he had ordered for her again. Yes, she does. I gave him a full smile this time. But I don't think you were talking from experience. You want pictures? He asked, half laughing. This guy was trying to get under my skin. I realized I should be reaching across the table for him, but instead, I ended up chuckling. You don't have pictures. If she had gone that far with you, there would be no need for you to spike her drink. What are wannabe molesters using these days? Rohypnol? Rohypnol? Or just good old X? I was working on a hunch, but his shocked look removed all doubt. He shrank back as I leaned across the table from him. Now I was pissed. You little scumbag, I should kick the crap out of you right here and now, but I'm not sure I wouldn't kill you. I don't need to go to jail right now. I gave my wife 3 choices, and I am now giving you 3 choices. I put one finger under his nose. 1. You go bye-bye. You go and apologize to my wife now and quit your job tomorrow. I promise not to come after you. Then you leave town. I raised another finger. 2. You go to the cops and admit to spiking my wife's drink. Serve your sentence and leave my wife alone. They'll be watching you, but I won't come after you. Then you leave town. I raised the 3rd finger. 3. I sign us up for boxing classes. In 4 weeks, you and I step into the ring. Personal injury waivers will be signed, and neither one of us leaves until they are unconscious. And when you wake up, you still leave my wife alone. Then you leave town. The waiter dropped off my scotch just as I finished up. I took a long drink and appreciated the burn. Time to get back to cool. You must think I'm an idiot. Why would I go along with any of those options? He sneered. I gave him what I hoped was a menacing grin. Because you don't want to be looking over your shoulder for the rest of your miserable existence. Every time you walk to your car in the dark, you'll wonder if me or one of my friends will be waiting with a bat to crush your knees and stomp on your balls. Every time you go to open your door at home, you won't know if I or one of my friends is going to jump in and tie you to a chair and cut off your balls. Every time you go out to a bar, you won't know if me or one of my buddies is going to slip something in your drink and arrange for some backdoor loving, then stomp your balls. You wouldn't do any of that. You're a teddy bear. At least that's what your wife told me after I got done screwing her the other night. His face was gaining some color back. I took another sip of my scotch. I reached into my pocket and hit the button that started the voice record function on my phone. Hopefully, it would pick these next few sentences of dialogue up. I really should have planned this better. You were planning on drugging and assaulting my wife tonight, dirtbag. Are you willing to bet a lifetime of pain and suffering that I wouldn't do exactly what I said? It was time to go fishing. The drugs were just to get her in the mood for when I brought my friends over. We were going to make her airtight tonight. My cool evaporated. I was able to grab his collar with my left hand and haul him toward me. I couldn't get much power behind the punch with my right fist because I was sitting down. I did hear a satisfying crunch and felt his nose give. You piece of garbage, am going to call the cops? He shrieked as he held his nose. Go for it, asshole. I'd love for them to test the remaining wine in that glass for drugs, and then listen to the recording I have of you admitting to it, I shouted. Within 10 minutes, the cops were investigating the disturbance. Apparently, 2 state troopers were taking a lunch break at the Waffle House across the street. They took my statement and bagged the remaining wine and wineglass for testing. They searched Ethan and found a packet of white powder. He asked for a lawyer and refused to say anything else. They listened to my recording and took my cell phone as evidence. It was difficult, but you could just make out Ethan talking about the drugs and the plan. It was almost 3 in the morning before Rachel and I were able to leave the police station after she was done giving her statement. One of the cops spent almost 15 minutes telling her what a great guy I was and how I had saved her from a drug-induced assault. She was a basket case by the end of it all. Ethan stayed in police custody. We were able to use her cell phone to give a quick explanation to my parents. They were understanding and promised to take care of Olivia for as long as needed. They decided to take her to the aquarium the next day, which would be a treat shed love. After pulling into the garage and shutting the car off, both of us just sat there, staring at each other. Rachel unbuckled her seatbelt and leaned over to give me a hug across the console. I let her cry into my shoulder for about a minute, then gently pushed her away. Rachel, we still need to talk, but it's late, and we need to go to bed. Tomorrow, we're both calling into work and spending the day together to figure out how to move forward. Sound like a plan? Yes, Alex. Bed sounds wonderful. In a small voice, she added. Can I please sleep in the bed with you? Of course, baby. I woke up the next morning spooned up to my wife. I thought about everything that had happened the night before, and for the first time in a while, I felt like there might be a path forward. We still had some serious conversations ahead, but there was a glimmer of hope. We grabbed breakfast at a local diner and chatted about Olivia and the fun she was having with my parents. We managed to keep things light, avoiding any heavy topics for the time being. After finishing our coffee, we paid the bill and headed home. We sat down at the kitchen table, and I knew it was time to get to the heart of the matter. Okay, I guess I'll start this, I said. I think you can see now what kind of person Ethan is, so I'm not going to harp on that. He said some pretty vile things last night, but I need to know, is there any truth to what he said? Did you do anything with him that I need to know about? Rachel shook her head vehemently. No, Alex. I swear, the farthest I went with him was that stupid night at the Red Barrel. I know my actions were awful, but I never crossed the line into anything physical beyond that. How can you make me believe that? I asked, my voice calm but firm. You lied to me about going to see him last night, and you lied by omission about that night at the bar and your whole relationship with him. Trust has been shattered, Rachel. We need to lay all the cards on the table. Rachel took a deep breath, clearly trying to compose herself. I've been thinking about that a lot, and I think the only way to prove him telling the truth is to take a polygraph test. You can ask me anything, and he'll answer honestly. I just want to prove to you that I'm committed to fixing this. I raised an eyebrow. A polygraph? You're serious? She nodded. Yes, Alex. I'll do whatever it takes. Just tell me where and when, and I'll be there. The sincerity in her eyes was undeniable. While I knew polygraphs weren't foolproof, the fact that she was willing to take one showed me she was serious about mending things. All right, I'll look into it. It might take some time to set up, but I'll make the arrangements, I replied. Rachel smiled, a small, tentative smile. Thank you, Alex. That's a start. We'll deal with the details later, but I want you to know that I'm ready to do whatever it takes to rebuild your trust. I leaned back in my chair, feeling the weight of everything that had happened. Rachel, what hurts me the most isn't just the lies, though they're a big part of it. It's that you were willing to meet him at a hotel bar last night. You broke my heart when you lied to me about going out with the girls. I need to understand why you did that. Why didn't you come to me when you started feeling like something was missing? Rachel's eyes welled up with tears again. Alex, I've been trying to figure that out myself. When you took on this project, I felt like I was in second place for the first time in our marriage. I'm not blaming you or your work, I know how important it was. But I felt lonely, and when Julia's sister made that stupid comment about finding romance elsewhere, it got stuck in my head. I wasn't thinking of cheating, but I was looking for something that I felt was missing. She took a deep breath and continued, Ethan showed up at the right time. He was attentive, he asked about my day, and he made me feel special in a way I hadn't felt in a long time. I didn't realize how deep I was getting into it until Julia called me out. I tried to back off after that, but I was still lonely, and I made a series of bad decisions. The night at the Red Barrel was the worst of them all. I got drunk, and I let things get out of hand. I was ashamed, and instead of being honest with you, I tried to cover it up. She paused, searching my face for a reaction. But Alex, I swear, I never intended for it to go this far. I love you, and I want to make this right. I'm willing to do whatever it takes. I sat there for a moment, letting her words sink in. Rachel, I appreciate your honesty now, but it's going to take time for me to trust you again. I'm willing to try if you are, but you have to understand that this isn't going to be easy. Rachel nodded, tears streaming down her face. I know, Alex. I'm so sorry for everything. I'm ready to do whatever it takes to fix this. I reached across the table and took her hand. We'll start with the polygraph, and we'll go from there. But remember, this is going to take time, and we're going to need help. We'll find a counselor, and we'll work through this together. Rachel squeezed my hand tightly. Thank you, Alex. I promise I'll do everything I can to make things right. We spent the rest of the day talking, laying out everything that had been festering between us. It was painful, but it was also the first step towards healing. The project ended up being completed 6 weeks ahead of schedule and under budget. My company started gaining a reputation for handling complex government contracts efficiently. They offered me a promotion to a vice presidency, but I turned it down because it required too much travel. Instead, I proposed and now head a special projects division, which came with a new office and an executive assistant. My new executive assistant just happens to have the nicest smile and an impeccable work ethic. My wife, Rachel. No one has complained about us working together, and as long as the company keeps making money, I don't think anyone will. Most of the $45,000 bonus from the project went into Olivia's college fund, but I kept enough out for a week at an all-inclusive resort with Rachel. My parents were ready to hand Olivia back when we returned, but she had the time of her life with her grandparents. As for Ethan, he got 3 to 5 years for attempted assault and possession of a controlled substance. The powder found in his pocket was indeed rohypnol. He also got the crap kicked out of him one night while walking to his car. No, it wasn't me. Apparently, one of his previous victim's brothers caught up with him. The guy got 2 years for felony assault, and I put $50 a month in his prison commissary account. We're still working on rebuilding our relationship, and it hasn't been easy. We're attending counseling, and Rachel has been tested for a hormonal imbalance, which turned out to be part of the issue. With some medication adjustments, she's feeling better. We're not where we used to be, but we're getting there. We've also started taking martial arts classes together. It's been a great way to reconnect, and I have to admit, sparring with Rachel has turned out to be some of the best foreplay we've ever had. So, that's our story. It's not perfect, but it's ours, and we're working on it every day. If you're going through something similar, don't give up. There's always a way forward if both of you are willing to put in the work. Thanks for watching. How would you handle discovering your partner's secrets? Share your thoughts below. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more stories. I finally pulled up to my house at 5 a.m. on a Saturday morning. The traffic had been horrible on my drive back from Austin to San Diego. It always is on Saturdays, and there had been a massive pileup on the highway that delayed me for several hours. I figured Sarah, my wife, would have been in bed for hours by then, but I was surprised she hadn't left a light on for me. Extracting my bags and briefcase from my truck's bed, I barely managed to carry them all at once. I waddled up to the front door, letting myself in. I immediately knew something was very wrong. The house was cold. Obviously, the heating was turned very low or off. This was unusual because Sarah always had the heating on too high for my liking. Putting my bags down, I turned on some lights and was shocked to see that some of our furniture was missing. My mind raced with confusion. I rapidly made my way upstairs to our bedroom. In theory, Sarah should have been in bed asleep. The bed was empty. Wardrobe doors and dresser drawers were open, and almost all of Sarah's clothes were gone. I stood there in shock for a few moments. What the hell was going on here? Thinking a little shot of something would be a good idea, I made my way back to our lounge. I grabbed a bottle of whiskey from the bar and collapsed into my recliner to contemplate the situation I found myself in. It was plainly apparent that my loving wife had left me. But why? Sarah and I had been married for almost 20 years. We had 2 wonderful 19-year-old twin boys who were both in their first year at Columbia University. Look, I'll be honest, when Sarah and I got married, I don't think we were head over heels in love with each other. We were just dating and having a good time. But you know how it is. We messed up big time. Sarah fell pregnant with Michael and Samuel, and I did the gentlemanly thing. I couldn't do much else. My old man would have killed me if I hadn't. But love is a strange thing. I soon found I was completely smitten with Sarah and my boys. Almost my whole life revolved around them. Anything Sarah wanted. I'd break my back to get her. I don't care what anyone says. I'm as devoted to her as any man can be to his wife. And since the boys have been away at college, we've been making up for the time we lost when they were kids. Everything wasn't completely rosy, though. Sarah was a strong-willed woman, and to be honest, I usually gave in to her wishes just to keep the peace. Generally, I was happy with most things in my marriage, but now it looked like I'd been living a lie, or at least Sarah had. It certainly looked like Sarah had left me. I just couldn't figure out why. She was always telling me how much she loved me. We had discussed the fact that neither of us really thought we would have gotten married to each other had she not become pregnant, but we had both agreed that it was probably the best thing that ever happened to us and how deeply we had fallen in love with each other since we had married. It looked to me like someone had maybe had second thoughts. Damn, my emotions took command. I suddenly got angry and jumped up to pace the room. Then I stormed out into the back garden to light up my pipe. Sarah doesn't like the smell of my pipe tobacco in the house, so I always go outside to smoke. I was out there for 10 minutes before I realized that Sarah wasn't there to complain, and it looked like she wouldn't be in the future. Still, for some reason, I finished my pipe outside. As I came back through the back door, I noticed a letter lying on the kitchen table. For a moment I stared at it. David, it said on the envelope. It was certainly from Sarah, and when she wrote it, she had been annoyed with me. The only time she ever calls me David is when she is upset with me. I sat down at the table, picked the envelope up, and turned it over in my hands. I don't think I really wanted to open it. I knew I wasn't going to like whatever was written inside. Slowly, I tore the envelope open, then unfolded the letter that was inside. You bastard. You lying, cheating, self-centered bastard. I am leaving you. I thought you loved me, but now I know different. You have been carrying on behind my back with that little tart, and I can prove it. I'm going to a lawyer on Monday. I'm going to divorce you and take everything I can get. They'll teach you to mess around on me. Didn't you at least think about the boys when you were swanning around with that little tart? She can't be much older than the twins. I'm going to take you for everything I can, you bastard. So you had better look for somewhere else to live, as you won't be able to keep the house when I'm finished with you. And if I ever see that little slut, you can tell her I'll gouge her bloody eyes out. Sarah. Interesting, I said out loud to myself. I wonder just whom this little slut is that Sarah is talking about. Some lying. I think there's been a cock-up in the intelligence section somewhere along the line. Look, do I look like the kind of guy who cheats on his wife? That kind of guy would surely have walked away from Sarah when she got pregnant. I'm the kind of guy who appreciates what he has and definitely doesn't want to lose what he's got. Yeah, there have been times when I've been tempted. What guy hasn't? But I've always known which side of the toast has the butter on it, and I've always been very careful about what I do. Still, it was apparent that Sarah was convinced I was playing around. So what do? Well, there was only one thing to do really, and that was go to bed. Look, I'd been up since before 6 Thursday morning, and now it was 5:30 Saturday morning. So to bed I went. Yep, just as calmly as that. Look, I got where I am in business by not letting my emotions get the better of me. Once I knew what the problem was, I could relax a little, knowing that I could quickly put Sarah's mind at rest. All I had to do was prove to her that she had got it all wrong, and bingo, crisis over. But when I got into bed, I found I couldn't sleep. Questions came into my head that I didn't expect. If Sarah thought I was cheating on her, why didn't she challenge me about it? Now that was a good point. Could it be because she had expected me to be cheating? But why would she do that? One thing I had learned over the years was that people expect others to behave as they do. Now, hang on just a minute. Could Sarah think I was cheating on her because she had been playing around on me, and then, having gotten suspicious of me for some reason, she had assumed I was cheating on her? I was out of bed like a shot at that thought. This was serious stuff. Before I knew it, I was tearing the bloody house apart, looking for anything that would give any hint that Sarah had been unfaithful to me. I turned her sewing room upside down. There wasn't much point in searching her bedroom drawers. They were all empty. Then I hit the computer. It took me hours to search that. I broke her passwords for her emails pretty quickly and then spent hours going through the internet history files. A complete waste of bloody time, but necessary. I found absolutely nothing besides Sarah's hunt for a divorce lawyer. She had made that on the previous Monday, but I could find no sign that she had actually contacted the lawyer she had apparently chosen. I got a wicked idea. The only way to win a battle is to take the offensive. It was an off chance, but I thought I'd give it a try anyway. At just after 8 a.m., I emailed the people she had obviously chosen, asking them to act on my behalf in a divorce case. There was a faint chance that Sarah hadn't actually spoken to them yet. I was lucky. Within minutes of my email going off, they replied asking me to come into the office ASAP. So that's what I did. Just after 10 a.m. on Saturday morning, I handed Laura Smith a bank transfer, and she was, from that moment on, my lawyer. Sarah couldn't have realized that some lawyers work on Sundays. After I told Laura what I had found at home and showed her the letter, she asked me whether I had ever cheated on my marriage. I told her that I loved my wife and had done nothing since we had been married that I thought would put my marriage in jeopardy. Laura told me to sit tight. I should try to find out where Sarah had gone and have a talk to her. Laura thought it was probably just a misunderstanding and that everything could all be sorted out with a little communication between us. I went back home and started to hunt for Sarah. I called her parents and brother, but they both said they had not heard from her and she wasn't with them. Apparently, she hadn't told them anything. The same went for her sister, but I had figured she lived much too far away for Sarah to have gone there. Anyway, Sarah's family, although she had apparently kept them in the dark about having left me, immediately took sides and clammed up on me once I told them why she had left. The next call I made, I wasn't looking forward to it, but I knew it was really my best bet. It was to Sarah's friend, Megan. Megan has been divorced twice, and to be honest, I don't blame the guys. Sweet as a peach one minute, but can turn into a complete bitch the next. Sarah and Megan have been friends since their school days. Whenever Megan wasn't with one of her many suitors, she was one good-looking man-eater. She would normally be with Sarah. Sarah and Megan would have a girls' night out every couple of weeks or so, and it wasn't unusual for Sarah to call me up and ask me to pick her up as Megan had scored. Sarah and I would often laugh about it. You see, I had always thought I could trust Sarah. The moment Megan found herself a guy, Sarah would call me in as backup. I dialed Megan's number and immediately knew I'd hit pay dirt. Megan started sounding off at me the moment she heard my voice. I quietly demanded to speak to Sarah, but Megan denied that she was there. I felt sure she was, as it was the only place left that she could have gone to. In Megan's rant, she told me she knew all about Sarah having left me. After about 5 minutes, I gave up and hung up the phone. The old emotions rose again, so it was outside again for another pipe full. Whilst out there, I got myself under control and started thinking again. Sarah was playing games. This running off without talking to me was designed to wind me up. Well, it wasn't going to wind me up anymore. I'd done nothing I had to be ashamed of. Right, Sarah? If you wanted to play games, they'll bloody well play games. I stormed back into the house and phoned the twins. They were totally flabbergasted when I told them that their mother had walked out on me. Of course, I told them that I had done nothing that I could think of to cause Sarah to leave me, and am pretty sure I had them convinced. I also told them that I thought Sarah was staying at Megan's, and then I said that as far as I was concerned, she could stay there. The boys said they thought it was all just a silly misunderstanding, and that their mother would soon come to her senses. I know I really shouldn't have brought the boys in on this, but it was silly games we were playing, and I knew they would give their mother a good dressing down over it. Then I went hunting in the garage. When we bought the house, I had changed the barrels and the outside door locks for 2 reasons really. One was we didn't know if we had been given all the keys to the house, and the other so that we had a matched set of barrels. All the outside doors had the same key. It saves having lots of keys to carry around. A Eurolock barrel only takes a few minutes to fit. Now I changed all the barrels back to the originals, then disabled the garage door opener and bolted the shutter down. Sarah wanted out. Well, now she was bloody well out, and she couldn't get back in. Whilst I was fiddling with the shutter on the garage, Old Man Brown, my neighbor from across the road, came over to me. He and his missus are a nosy pair, so I guess they'd seen Sarah moving and had come across to see what gossip he could pick up. He got very little out of me, but I found out that a U-Haul truck had appeared Thursday morning and 2 guys and a woman helped Sarah take a lot of stuff from the house. The 2 guys drove off in the truck, and Sarah followed in her Honda. The other woman drove off in a green Ford Mustang. I was right, it was Megan. That obnoxious little green beetle belonged to her. That night, I drew all the curtains downstairs in the house and closed the blinds in the garage windows. From the outside, no one could see in, but I could look out from the upstairs windows, and I could see the front door and drive through the security CCTV system. I put that in a few years back so Sarah could see who was at the door when I wasn't at home. Then I called Megan again. I told you, David, Sarah's not here. I don't know where she is, and if I did, I wouldn't tell you anyway, you cheating bastard. That's perfectly all right, Megan. I understand. I just want you to give Sarah a message for me. If you should happen to see her, that is, tell her that, as she has chosen to believe some stupid rumor without even speaking to me, I don't think I want to know where she's gone. In fact, I don't think I want to see her again. If by any chance you do hear from her, can you ask her to let me know where I should have my lawyer send the divorce papers? I'm intending to divorce her for desertion. We'll just see who gets the short end of the stick in her little game. Now, you can't do that. She's going to divorce you for adultery. Before she can do that, Megan, I actually have to have committed adultery with someone, and as I know I haven't done that, I think I'm pretty safe on that score. Now don't you go fretting that little head of yours. The divorce will be settled in my favor because Sarah has taken it in her head to desert me. I've got a stupid letter here from her saying she's doing just that. My lawyer tells me that's all I'm going to need. But I hung up and then pulled the plug on the phone. That little slip of the tongue by Megan was all I needed to hear. She had said and then changed her mind and said, "You were seen." From that last half of a sentence, I figured it was Megan who thought she had seen me with another woman somewhere. Now, would Megan tell Sarah exactly what I had said? And would that put doubt into Sarah's mind? I went into the kitchen and made myself a meal. Then, after it was completely dark outside, I slipped out the back door and walked around the house to make sure that no one could see inside. Sarah wanted to play games, so games we would play. Then I settled myself on the computer to entertain myself until the fun I hoped was going to start actually did. It was 8:30 p.m. when I saw Sarah's Honda pull into the drive on the CCTV. Sarah must have had a change of plan. I could see her sitting in the car watching the house for a while. Then Megan walked up and joined her in the car. Megan must have arrived in her own car and parked it in the street where I couldn't see it. It appeared Sarah was hedging her bets. I hope she was thinking that maybe she didn't have enough evidence if it came to a court battle, or that maybe she had it wrong. In any case, I guess she was hoping she was back to stay. If she were living in the house, I wouldn't be able to claim she had deserted me. After waiting about 15 minutes, Sarah got out of the car and tried to unlock the front door. I realized she had probably been trying to get the garage door to open with the remote control but had finally given up. Of course, her key wouldn't fit the lock. Sarah rang the doorbell a couple of times and even called out to me through the mailbox. Megan got out of the Honda and joined her. I could hear them talking, but other than hearing Megan say, "Try the other door," nothing else was clear enough. They both passed out of the CCTV's range, and shortly I heard them at the kitchen door. Then the patio door not 5 feet from me. The next minute they were back at the front door. After trying the front door yet again, Sarah went over and tried to pull up the garage shutter by hand. After giving that up as a bad job, the two of them went back to the Honda and stood by it for some time, having an animated conversation that ended when Megan walked away and Sarah got back into her car. For the next half an hour, Sarah sat there, apparently making repeated calls on her mobile phone, but not actually talking to anyone. I could only assume she was making alternate calls to the house phone, but the line was kept busy. She must have called the mobile phone that I had switched off. Then Megan returned, carrying a McDonald's bag. She joined Sarah in the Honda, and they stayed there until well after midnight when quite suddenly they drove away. Sticking my head around the curtain, I saw that they had left Megan's VW parked in the street, so I assumed they planned on coming back the following morning. All day Saturday, they sat out there in the drive, with Megan making numerous trips to McDonald's, which is not too far away. Once again, they left just after midnight, but this time they took Megan's car as well. I assumed that Megan needed it to get to work the following morning. I was up and out of the house very early on Monday, just in case Sarah turned up again. I went out to the highway rest area where I got myself a questionable breakfast. Then I sat reading the daily papers until it was time for me to go to work. Unusually for me, I was the first one in that morning. I figured the game would come to an end today. Sarah was bound to call me at the office, but I figured I'd get some payback for her giving me the fright she had on Thursday night. Sure enough, at 9:05, my phone rang. "David, where the hell have you been?" Sarah demanded. "I've been trying to get into the house all weekend." This verbal attack upset me again. To be honest, I was expecting a very contrite Sarah that morning. "I wouldn't suggest you try to get into the house again, Sarah. You don't live there anymore, remember? And as the house is much too big for me alone, I've rented it out." A lie, of course, but it had the desired effect. Sarah went loopy. "Are you mad? You can't have rented it out. Why the hell would you do that?" "Now look, Sarah, we've got a very costly court battle coming up. The rent on the house will help pay for it. You've gone bloody crazy." "No, Sarah. You went bloody crazy when you started all of this. You accused me of cheating on you. You called me all those names in that stupid letter, and you wouldn't talk to me while you were hiding at Megan's house." "David, we have to talk." "It's a bit late for talk now, Sarah. Talk time was Thursday evening. Now it's the lawyers make money time. So that's it? You're not even sorry for what you've done? You're just happy to see the back of me after 20 years? Whoa, hold on there, girl. First off, I've got nothing to be sorry about. You were the one that did the walking bit. You were the one who left the stupid note that nearly gave me a bleeding heart attack, and it was you who started talking about divorce. Now, I suggest you go and see that lawyer you were so quick to threaten me with and find out what he has to say. Then call me back and give me his details so that I can pass them on to mine." "Goodbye, Sarah." I hung up the phone. Was I pushing things too far? Well, yes, I suppose I probably was. But as far as I'm concerned, there is only one thing worse than finding out your spouse is playing around behind your back, and that's when the person you love doesn't have the trust in you that they should have. I made a couple of telephone calls that I thought were necessary. The first to U-Haul. There were a couple of things I needed to bank transfer out with them. They gave me a number, and I had a long conversation with a very contrite little man. I met him once at one of Megan's parties. I think I scared the shit out of him. Then I made an international call and covered that angle. Half an hour later, I got a call from Laura Smith. She was a little annoyed with me. "Mr. Smith, we've just had a visit from your wife, and I very much suspect that you knew she had intended to retain me today to act on her behalf." "Well, yes, I did suspect that was what she was planning to do. But as you were the best divorce lawyer around here, I thought it would be much better if you were acting for me instead. My clerk has sent her to another practice. They'll warn you, they are very good and costly. Laura, no offense intended, but can you tell me of a lawyer who isn't costly? No offense taken, David. It's your money, you can say what you like. But why aren't you talking to her and sorting this mess out?" The answer to that is all in a name. Sarah is calling me David. That means she is angry with me. She would not hear what I say when I tell her I did not have an affair. She doesn't want to believe me. If she did, she would have called me David. It's as simple as that. Sarah has never called me David. I'm not sure I understand your logic, but I really think you two should get together and talk. Well, I am prepared to do that when Sarah is willing to listen. But then I've got some rather important questions to ask her. If I don't get the answers I want, you will be handling our divorce anyway. David, do you have reason to believe your wife has been unfaithful to you or something? Not really, but she appears to have been pretty quick to believe that I would be. I've always found that people expect others to behave as they do themselves. I just got to thinking, has Sarah been as faithful to me as she expects me to be to her? She appears to be condemning me very quickly. I think I see your logic now, but it's not one I've come across before. Well, we will see what happens, shall we? I'll call you later, Laura. I didn't get much work done for the rest of the morning, and it wasn't until going on 12 that Sarah called me back. David, we have to talk straight away. I came off of the offensive and agreed to meet her at 2 p.m. in the pub down the road from my office. At first, Sarah appeared surprised at what she thought was my sudden capitulation, but when she returned to calling me David, I realized I still had a fight on my hands. In a quiet corner when Sarah entered the bar, she came directly over and sat down opposite me, although I had left her room in the booth to sit beside me. "Aren't you going to buy me a drink?" she asked. "No. You can buy your own bloody drinks, remember? You walked out on me. You don't need me." Sarah was taken aback. I think she still thought I had cheated on her and would therefore be the one on the defensive. She got up and went to the bar to buy herself a drink. Well, what have you got to say for yourself? She demanded when she returned. Sarah, I haven't got the foggiest idea what has gotten into you. Just what you think I should be apologizing for, I don't know. You were in Denver last weekend with some little tart. You were seen, so don't try to deny it. Sarah, last week I was in Miami. You know that. I spoke to you several times. I know nothing of the kind. I spoke to you on your mobile phone. You could have been in bloody Timbuktu, for all I knew. And I've been told you were in Denver with a woman. Sarah, I was working. You know my itinerary. It's the same 4 times a year. St. Louis, Miami, Detroit. 3 days each. I've been doing the same thing for nearly 5 years now. But you were seen in Denver. Okay, Sarah. Who saw me in Denver? Whoever told you they saw me there is either mistaken or lying to you. Why would anyone go to bloody Denver at this time of year anyway? It must be bleeding, freezing up on that coast at this time of year. To see the lights. Megan went on a coach trip last weekend to see the Denver lights and to do some shopping for Christmas. She saw you and the little slut you were staying with. She said you were so engrossed in her that you walked right past her a couple of times, and she followed the pair of you up to your room. Megan, I thought as much. Sarah, how long have I known Megan? Since you've known me, I suppose. And do you think I would not notice Megan if I was staying in the same hotel as her? Oh, yes. How long was I supposed to be sharing a hotel with her? The weekend. She went up on a weekend trip, Thursday to Monday. Where is your logic, Sarah? Megan is not my favorite person, but she does have presence. Do you think that any man would not notice those sexy short skirts she wears, or that pair of bristles that come around the corner 10 minutes before she does? I think I told you Megan was a looker. No guys ever miss Megan. Unfortunately, quite a few guys have found that out to their cost. Sarah looked slightly confused. I think the argument was about over, and she was about to capitulate and start apologizing when the door flew open and Megan strode into the bar. She made a beeline for our booth and then, to my surprise, plunked herself in the seat next to me, trapping me in. With a look of triumph on her face, she produced a small folder of the type they put photographic prints in. Right. You bastard, explain this away, she demanded as she pulled a print out of the folder and shoved it under my nose. I did a quick double take on the print and then started smiling. I took the print from Megan's hand and turned it towards Sarah. Oh, didn't you recognize Sophie? Sarah, isn't that kind of Megan? Look, Sarah, Megan has taken some nice photos of Sophie. I hope you took some of my brother as well, Megan. Do you know, Megan, I really didn't know they were in the country, did you, Sarah? I suppose their ship must have docked in Galveston, and Daniel must have taken Sophie up to see the Denver lights as well. You know, their ship normally docks in Amsterdam. My twin brother is married to Sophie, a beautiful little Chinese girl he met in Singapore some years ago. They live on a container ship where he holds the post of first mate. The ship spends so little time in port that a lot of the married members of the crew have their spouses with them. Oh, and by the way, my brother and I are identical twins, just like my sons. Twins run in my family. Handy that. Sarah was crying then, and Megan was sitting there with her mouth open. So I continued. Did you say hello to Phil, Megan? If I remember correctly, you had the hots for him at our wedding. But that was a long time ago, wasn't it? Now both of them were crying, Sarah because she had messed up big time, and Megan, I supposed, because she was upset that she dropped Sarah in it. I sat and sipped my beer whilst the two of them regained their composure. After a little while, they stopped crying, but it was obvious that they had no idea of what to say. Megan was the first to pluck up the courage. David, I'm sorry. I forgot all about Phil. I really thought it was you. The pair of you are so alike, Megan finally said. Well, we would be alike. We are identical twins, after all. And I wouldn't worry about not remembering Phil, though, Megan. I doubt he would remember a slag like you. That was a little uncalled for, but I was still playing very angry. I'm so sorry, David. Sarah now appeared to have regained her courage. I just didn't think of Daniel. Can you forgive me for being so stupid? You must see how it looked. No, I bloody can't, I said angrily. Both girls suddenly had very shocked expressions on their faces. I've got a question for you, Sarah. Why? Why would you even think that I would cheat on you? We have been married for 20 years. During that time, have I ever given you reason to doubt me? No, David. You've been a wonderful husband and a great father to our boys. Then what made you so damn sure I was running around on you? And before you answer that, don't go telling me it was because Megan had told you. That would mean you trusted her more than you do me. I was your husband, the guy who has clothed you and fed you for the last 20 years. The guy who came running to find you when your so-called friend here found herself a stud for the evening on your nights out together, which I have never objected to, by the way. Sarah sat there and stared at me. Obviously, she had taken in my warning and was thinking before she spoke. I waited for a little while before I continued again. Why were you in such a hurry to believe I would cheat on you? Could it be because you have been getting up to things you shouldn't behind my back in the past? You know, people tend to assume that others will behave as they do themselves. You see, the idea had never struck me in the past. I might be dumb or something, but it never dawned on me that you would cheat on me when you were out with this slut because I could never imagine myself cheating on you. So I always believed you wouldn't cheat on me either. But you've moved the goalposts, Sarah, and changed all that. Now I'm thinking I was being bloody naive. Without a second thought, you assumed that I was cheating on you. You never bothered to challenge me or anything. Your friend told you I was cheating, and you accepted it as fact without question. All right, now convince me you have never cheated on me. All those times you came home at 2 or 3 in the morning, and the times you stayed over at Megan's place. Come to that, what did you get up to whilst I was away? Oh God, David, I've never cheated on you. Honestly, Sarah finally exclaimed. Oh, so you say. Well, if that's so, who were those 2 assholes who drove that bloody U-Haul on Thursday? And why did you kiss the little prick? I saw Sarah literally jump when I said she had kissed the guy. There are a couple of guys from Megan's office. She asked them to help me. Oh yeah, and how did you pay them for their help when they got your stuff back to Megan's house? The same way Megan pays for her favors? Sarah knew what I was on about. Megan had often told us how she pays to get her car serviced. ID warned her many times that the garage owner's wife was one tough woman. I saw her in action once. Entertaining but a little demeaning. Come on, most guys enjoy a good catfight. ID never seen the girl she had caught her husband with again. No, I wouldn't do that. I just gave Tom a little kiss on the cheek to thank him for his help. That's all. It was nothing. Just a little peck. Yeah, but that was in public where the whole world could see you. What did he get in private back at Megan's place? Nothing, David. You've got to believe me. They just unloaded the van and left. They had to get the van back. If that is so, can you explain just why you were surcharged then? That van wasn't returned until 10 on Friday morning. When you book a van over the internet, girl, they send the paperwork back by email. I've read that email. That van was not returned until 10 Friday morning. So just what really happened? Now I've got to get out of here before I lose my temper. Let me out of here, Megan, before I push you out of the bleeding way. Megan stood up, and I pushed past her. I turned back to Sarah. I'm going to accept nothing but the whole truth from you. I've got plenty of friends out there who go to those same clubs you and the slut here have been going to. You had better decide very quickly whether you wish to try and save our marriage. At the moment, I don't give a damn either way. But if someone comes up with any stories about what you have been up to in the last few years, you had better make sure you have told me about it first. Be at the house tonight at 8. I'll give you an hour to explain anything you need to. Then I walked out of the bar. Look, I'm not daft, and I don't think Sarah is really, although I had never asked them to. My friends had always kept a very good eye on Sarah and Megan when they were on their nights out. Well, they would keep a good eye on Megan. It's common knowledge that she's a slapper. But I have been told that Sarah had got herself a nickname in the clubs. She was known as the Ice Queen. Sarah was known to be great for a laugh on the dance floor, but that was as far as it ever went. Sarah's trouble now was that she didn't know just who all my friends were and what kind of a slant they would put on what they told me. If she had been misbehaving, she would have to tell me herself tonight. Having taken a late lunch, I decided that there wasn't much point in going back to the office, so I began to make my way back home. Once home, ID plugged the phone back in before ID gone out that morning, and I was greeted as I entered the house with the answering machine message light flashing at me. There were a couple of messages early in the day that Sarah had obviously left before she called me at work. They were of the demanding to know where I was, and why couldn't she get into the house variety. Then there was a call from Tom Brown. Tom and I had been at school together. We weren't exactly friends back then, but let's just say that on the quiet it was with my help he got such good marks for his homework. Tom liked to play the tough man when he was with his mates, but really, he wanted to do well at school, and I kind of acted as a private tutor for him. David, I've been trying to call you all the bleeding weekend. What's the story, mate? Sarah and Megan were at the club Thursday night. Megan was telling everyone that you two have separated. Give me a call, will you? I need to know how you want to play things. I returned Tom's call, but before I had a chance to say anything, he announced he was coming over straight away and hung up on me. Within 10 minutes, his car pulled into my drive. As I said, Tom is a hard man who in his younger days had gotten into quite a bit of trouble with the police. Head sorted himself out quite nicely once he joined a good gym where Head gotten into amateur boxing. That somehow had led to him becoming a bouncer at one of the bigger local night spots, and over time he had finished up as the manager of the place. Some say that he is also part owner of a couple of the local night spots, which I wouldn't put past him. Anyway, Tom has a soft spot for me. As I said, he has always looked after my interests as far as Sarah was concerned. He would often call me at work, or sometimes Head pop into the pub where I had lunch, and without my asking, he would suddenly tell me just who Sarah had been dancing with and who, if anyone, had tried to get it on with her. I'm pretty sure that if any guy had ever persuaded her to go outside, Tom or his bouncers would have had something to say about it. It had been Tom who had told me that Sarah had the nickname the Ice Queen. Tom turned down my offer of beer as he was working later, so we settled for some coffee. Right, David? What the fuck is going on between you and Sarah? She was in the club Thursday, and Megan was telling everyone that the pair of you had separated. She said that you were bonking some little chinkbit in Denver last weekend or something. Don't tell me Megan went up to Denver last week, and apparently Daniel was up there with his missus. Megan thought it was me, and the bitch told Sarah. I came back from Austin to find that Sarah had moved out on me without a by your leave. Oh fuck. But you soon put her right, didn't you? Well, not exactly, Tom. Let's just say we are playing mind games at the moment. I got pretty pissed off that Sarah hadn't spoken to me about it first. I was wondering if she has been playing around behind my back. Hey, no chance there, man. No one gets into Sarah's pants. And one on that one. And some of the studs heard there was trouble between you two. They thought they might get lucky Thursday night, but from what I heard, the ice was a damn sight colder than usual. Sarah and Megan left well before closing time. Oh, and the taxi took the two of them straight home to Megan's place. I had a word with the driver. I thought you would want to know. Thanks, Tom. It's good to have friends. All part of the service, David. Hey, it's about time you came down to the club anyway. You never come in to see the boys nowadays. From then on, the conversation dropped back into what old friends were up to and that kind of thing. Before we knew it, it was almost 8, and Tom said he had better get to the club. Tom was just leaving when Sarah pulled into the drive. I saw Sarah do a double take on Tom as he reversed out. She had a confused look on her face as she had obviously recognized him, but she had no idea that I knew him. I was standing in the doorway as she walked up the steps. Wasn't that Brown, the manager at the Starlight? She asked. What was he doing here? Tom Brown. You mean? Yeah, he's an old friend of mine. He came around to commiserate with me over our upcoming divorce. Come in and sit in the kitchen. I've got some coffee on the go. I followed Sarah into the kitchen and managed to beat her to the coffee pot. This was my house now, and I'd pour the bloody coffee. Look, David, this is silly. I realize you're annoyed at me, but you're being childish about it. Megan was sure it was you she saw. How was she to know that Daniel and Sophie were in the country? What else would you have thought in my situation? I would have thought that Megan had made a mistake until I had checked up on things myself. But you didn't bank transfer up, did you? You decided to leave me. Look, David, I was wrong, I'll admit that. But why did you lock me out of the house? Because you decided it was no longer your house and left it. When you walked out that door on Thursday, you effectively ended our marriage. Don't be silly, David. I was angry, and I was trying to teach you a lesson. I realized it was a stupid thing to do. Look, I'm sorry and I want to come back home. Well, you made the bed. Now you had better get used to laying on it. You mean you're not going to let me move back in? No. But why not? Because I don't believe you. Or at least I don't trust you. Tell me, when did Megan tell you she had seen Daniel in Denver? Monday, when she came back. Why do you ask? Before I spoke to you on the phone that night or after? After. So on Wednesday when I called you, you knew that Megan thought she had seen me. Or rather, Daniel. Yes. So why didn't you challenge me on Wednesday evening? Better than that, why didn't you call me back on Monday after Megan told you? Why did you act as if nothing was wrong? I don't know. I wasn't sure what I was going to do about it then. But you made up your mind, didn't you? You decided life would be better without me. You thought you were going to get it all, didn't you? All our savings and a good chunk of my pension as well. I didn't matter. It was only the money you were worried about. Oh my God. No. David, where the hell did you get that idea? I just wanted to throw a scare into you. Honestly. So if you were just throwing a scare into me, why take all that furniture? Just you not being here would be a scare. You didn't have to empty half the bloody house. You're right. It was overdoing things. But Megan said it would make you think I was serious. Oh, Megan again. It always comes back to Megan. Do you know that nearly all of the disagreements we've had over the years have come down to Megan and the ideas she puts into your head? And there's one other point. If Megan had told you she had seen me with a Chinese girl, what would you have thought? I would have immediately thought of Phil. But Megan never told you the girl she claimed she saw me with was an Oriental, did she? I suppose she didn't notice. You have to admit, Sophie's features aren't that strong. So why the bloody hell was Megan telling all the guys down the club that I was shacked up with a little chink bird? She can't have known, she said. She didn't know that the girl was Chinese until you pointed out on those photos in the pub, and she only got those back from the laboratory this morning. Don't ask me. Ask Tom. Next time you see him or any of your fancy men down at the club, they'll tell you what Megan was telling everyone. I think Megan knew it was Sophie and Daniel when she saw them. I just can't figure out why she told you she didn't recognize them. But why would she do that? I don't know, Sarah. She's your bloody friend. You tell me what she was trying to achieve and why. But she seemed so sure. It was her idea for me to move out of the house. Sarah sat there silently, staring into space for a long time. I got up and poured myself a drink. Can I have one of those? She asked. I poured her a scotch and soda. David, can I ask you something? Anything you like. But will you be honest with me? I've always been honest with you. Well, there were a couple of times when I had to lie to you when I was planning surprises. Like our 10th anniversary honeymoon. No, this is serious. I need you to tell me the truth. Have you ever made a pass at Megan since we've been married? Now who's trying to be funny? Of course I haven't. Do I look daft? God knows what you could catch off her. She never has been choosy. And what about Fran Miller? Your old secretary. Fran? Are you mad? You've met her husband. What do you think? I've got a bloody death wish? So you've never made a pass at Megan, and you never had anything going with Fran? Don't be silly. Why do you ask? You definitely never kissed Fran? Well, of course, I kissed her a few times. If I remember. I thought her old man was after your tonsils a few times under the mistletoe at those Christmas dos. No, I mean beside at the Christmas parties. Everyone kisses under the mistletoe. You're being silly again. Only a fool would mix business with pleasure. And besides that, I was very happy with the woman I had. Bugger. I've been such a fool. I'll make no comment on that, but it's cost you more than you'll ever know. Sarah looked at me with a look that should have sent me dashing over there to comfort her. My heart went out to her, but I was still trying to retain the moral high ground. I was still playing the put-upon husband. Then she turned on the tears. Oh, fuck. I lost the battle. ID had a hard enough problem walking out of the pub earlier in the day when she started crying. A bad tactical mistake Sarah had made there. If she had sat beside me, I would have capitulated. Then I moved over and sat beside her, putting my arm around her shoulders. After what seemed like an age, she stopped crying. You never have done anything that you're ashamed of in our marriage, have you? What do you think, babe? Then why? Why what, Sarah? Why would Megan tell me you had? Why would she tell me she had seen you with Fran? You had better ask her that one, Sarah. She's your friend. No, she's not. Not anymore she isn't. I don't know why, but every doubt I've had about you in our married life, I can trace back to Megan. What bloody doubts? Oh, suspicions about you playing around when you're away from home, and that you had something going on with Fran. Bloody what? Why the hell have you never said anything in the past? Because I love you. I didn't want to bring anything to a head. I thought I'd let things slide, and you would come back to me. I'd never leave you, Sarah. I love you too much. I know that now. I should have always known it. I'm sorry, David. I haven't been a very good wife. I haven't given you the trust one should have. Can you forgive me? Oh, now there's a question, but I don't think it's for me to answer. I think you need to answer that yourself. Look into your heart and work out why you thought I would be unfaithful to you. When you can figure that one out, I think you'll have your answer. Sarah reached into her bag and retrieved her mobile phone. Deliberately, she dialed a number. Megan, you are no longer a friend of mine. I never want to see you or hear from you again. Shut up and listen, you bitch. I'm calling you because if I met you in person, I'm not sure I could control myself. I might kill you or something. All my life, I listened to you. Now I realize you have always been trying to drive a wedge between me and my husband. You've lied to me so many times, I can't count them. No, stay out of my life from now on. Sarah looked up at me. Can I bring my bags and out of the car now? No. We'll go straight to bed. I've missed you for the last couple of weeks, and you'll definitely not need any night clothes tonight. We went up to bed and spent the night trying to relive our honeymoon. I think it was one of the best nights we ever had. In the morning, I made arrangements to have our furniture collected from the storage unit Sarah had hired. We dropped back into our old life. Oh, there were the lawyer's bills to pay, but at least Megan was out of our lives. I think it was worth every penny. It was some time before Sarah figured out what Megan's problem was. Sarah ran into an old friend one day who told her that before Sarah and I were married, Megan had told her she had a crush on me and she intended to steal me from Sarah. Well, that never happened. I do remember Megan coming on a bit strong, but as I have said, I always figured her to be a slut, so I steered clear. Sarah and I intend to grow old together, and we talk about our feelings a lot more nowadays. Oh, I'm a regular at Tom's Club most weeks now, but the Ice Queen dances a lot more than I do. As for Megan, I don't think either Sarah or I have seen her since. It was the night of our next anniversary. I had been away on one of my trips. Sarah attacked me as I entered the front door. She then started dragging me up to the bedroom, discarding her clothes as she went. Once in the room, she pushed me down onto the bed and attacked my belt. Within moments, she had removed my trousers and underpants while I removed my shirt. I must say I don't remember her removing my shoes and socks. Maybe she removed them after her lips clamped down on the old John Thomas, but by that time, I was beyond caring. I watched her head rise and fall as she tried to force as much of me as possible down her throat. What's the old comment? She could suck a billiard ball down a hosepipe. Well, that's what it felt like she was trying to do. God, Sarah gives bloody good head. Far better than either Fran or Megan. Maybe not quite as good as that little Chinese bird up in Denver, though. Mind you, it was bloody lucky for me that she looked so much like Sophie. I nearly cocked things up in a big way there. Oh, by the way, I did try Megan out just before I got married. Sarah, come on. There are advantages to being an identical twin, but really Megan was all show and not much action. I think she must have gotten a little pissed off with Phil when I told her she wasn't that good in bed. Well, I never did like the bitch. I'm just wondering if Megan ever worked out that Phil and I pulled the switch on her. If she did, she was the only one. Well, I think, but it might explain why she tried to put the boot in. Look, I have said that I consider myself a bloody gentleman, but I've never said anything about having a flawless character. Though life goes on, just a little more carefully. Thanks for watching. How would you react if your partner trusted rumors over you? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories like this.